All right, what's up, listeners? Welcome to the pilot episode of Predator vs. Movies. I'm Alex,
I'm Peter.
and this is a podcast where we discuss and review the latest movie releases. We're going to start off with a non spoiler review before diving into a deeper discussion of the film, and then we'll ask the most important question: would this movie be better if the alien from Predator was in it? This week, we're going to be reviewing Thor Love and Thunder with our special guest, Aidan.
Hey, how's it going?
So, we're going to start off with some discussion of recent movie news from this week. Did any of you guys see the trailer for Triangle of Sadness by its director Ruben Ostlund? Hopefully, I didn't pronounce that wrong.
No, I did not
Wait,
see it.
is that the cruise ship one with
Yes.
Woody Harrelson?
Yes. Did you watch that I sent you?
I think I did. It's really weird. It's like a three-parter. It's like first part is like the crew life, and then you're on the cruise ship, and then lastly you're stranded on an island.
Yeah. It. The best way I could describe. Well, first of all, apparently it won the Palme d'Or, so this is the Palme d'Or winner of the year. And it hasn't released yet, so this is the first trailer we're getting. Looks like a dark comedy, and Ruben Ostlund, God, is no stranger to dark comedies. He did Force Majeure. If you guys seen that,
No.
probably fair enough. I think he's Finnish or Swedish, somewhere from like Scandinavia.
One of them countries.
And yeah, I highly recommend Force Majeure. That's a fun one. Basically, there's an avalanche and
That's the one.
Yeah,
I see. Yeah.
this family's like out on the deck of like the whatever you call it, the chalet, the Swiss chalet, and the avalanche is coming for them, and the dad takes his phone and he runs away, leaving the family behind. But then it turns out that it wasn't a big deal. So like the family's just like, what the hell, man, why'd you do that? So,
was there like a Will Ferrell remake of that? Okay, yeah.
Yes.
That sounds familiar,
yeah, Will Ferrell, and I want to say Julia Louis-Dreyfus
Yeah, I think so.
did a remake that apparently is not quite as good. Anyways, so the new one, won Palme d'Or, stars Woody Harrelson. And if I had to guess, it kind of looks like a climate change metaphor, maybe. You know how like the rich are like on the boat and then stormy seas and then they get shipwrecked or something. I don't know. But it looks interesting. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I mean, it did win the Palme d'Or.
Yeah, that's good.
It's a good sign. It's a good sign. How about, who heard about the Walmart Plus?
Oh yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah.
That sounds really interesting. So if you didn't hear, Walmart has been talking with Disney, Comcast, and Paramount about buying up their streaming services and making it into one package called Walmart Plus. What do you guys think about that?
I just think the name itself is hilarious because you don't associate Walmart with an entertainment giant.
Yeah.
And now you're getting Disney, Comcast, and Paramount on Walmart Plus.
It's also like, why would like Disney do that? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because isn't Disney also moving to like they're switching to a paid subscription model, or like one with advertisements and one without?
Advertisements, yeah. Same with Netflix, yeah.
It's already paid, right? Yeah.
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 There's no free ones just yet.
Yeah.
Well. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't know. I just don't understand how those like Comcast and Disney, like what they stand to gain from being under the umbrella of Walmart.
Yeah, the way I see it is certain streaming services they're not going to last. Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
Who's watching
Paramount? Not watching the iCarly reboot?
Exactly. Those products were doing perfectly fine on Netflix, and then Paramount got greedy and was like, let's bring all of our stuff into the one kind of house-owned streaming service, and I just don't think it's viable in the long term. So I could see why them and Comcast would consider something like this, but Disney has a strong portfolio of like film and television now, especially after they bought 20th Century Fox.
Yeah.
Like I would have said before that, I would have said sure, like Disney's kind of limited in their their family friendly stuff, but post Fox purchase, I'd say like they got a whole bunch of like adult friendly content. So I could see Disney buying up other people's stuff maybe, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Also, isn't it really bad for the consumers? Since then it would just be the Walmart Plus, and then the other thing would just be Netflix, right? So you just
Yeah,
have
I
like two
guess
streaming services. So there's a
I
huge
imagine
monopoly.
Amazon Prime would
Oh,
lose.
and that too. Yes, right.
Actually, that's kind of interesting. I guess Prime is the analog or like the similar thing to Walmart, because at first you wouldn't have
Yeah.
expected a company like Amazon to make streaming, and now they've got some of the most popular shows with like The
Yeah.
The
Boys,
Boys.
Invincible, Marvelous Miss Maisel, some other stuff. But so I guess if you look at it through like that lens, like it's not the craziest thing that could happen, but I definitely feel like we're living in like a parody
Yeah, it
movie
is
or
like
like
definitely you hear that and that's hilarious. Like like Walmart Plus is really funny. Just a
it
bit.
is really
Like
funny.
Is Walmart even rich enough to buy up all these stream services?
I
Because that's a lot of money.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
Walmart's a pretty big company. Um, yeah, I just feel like we're living in the darkest timeline right now. Anyways, some other news. How about The Flash with
Oh
Ezra
yeah.
Miller?
Yeah.
They've been going on like a crime
Yeah.
rampage or spree across America.
Yeah, they burgled a house in Vermont or something recently.
They're just like hopping around doing crimes. And Warner Brothers, in some release, I'm not sure how this was brought out, but apparently they have three kind of
Mhm.
options they're considering right now. Either they release the movie with a little bit of Ezra Miller in like the press kind of thing, so he'll like, or they will say like, sorry about the crimes. I don't know. I don't know what
My
else to
bad.
do. Sorry about the crimes. Um, Option two is they release it without Ezra Miller involved in the press, or they scrap it entirely. What do you guys think is the best option there?
Dude, I just feel so bad for DC, man. They can't catch a break.
Well, especially after they just canceled, they filmed the entire Batgirl movie
Yeah.
and canceled it. So it's like I saw a funny tweet that was like, "This Flash movie must be so fire if they're not canceling it." But dude, I don't know. Like, I feel like it would still make tons of money if they put it out. Like, I really do think that it would still do well enough. Like, it probably wouldn't be like the biggest box office earner, but I mean, I don't know. Like, do they even plan on setting up like an extended universe at this point? Like, I, I think their plan is unclear. Um, so yeah, I don't even know.
Yeah,
Dude, if you think about it, so first we have the whole Snyder Cut situation, and then that sort of got finally wrapped up after HBO Max came out. Now we have the Amber Heard Johnny Depp lawsuit, which puts Aquaman 2 in a very peculiar situation.
which is
And now,
which is really unfortunate for Amber Heard. Hopefully, you guys have been kind of up on that, but yeah, I just throwing that out there that all may not be as it seemed.
Yeah, I didn't follow the trial. I saw
same,
it for like one day,
yeah.
and then I was like, I'm not paying attention to this. But yeah,
And also now the company has so much drama going on. So the Batgirl cancellation was due to a tax write-off. So they
yeah.
actually stand to gain more by not releasing the movie and use it as a write-off than
Well, that's
releasing the movie.
that's what they think is going to happen.
Yeah, that's what they think.
If
Exactly.
you put it right on your streaming service, yeah, of course it's not going to make that much money. But if they had decided to, and I honestly, it does seem there does seem to be a trend where the movies that are featuring BIPOC like cast and creators are the ones being put on streaming. So
Yeah.
Batgirl and Blue Beetle are both direct to streaming, and it's a shame that they're the ones that are getting canceled.
Well, also Prey that we were just talking about before we started.
Also true, yeah.
Yeah, I was just talking to Alex about that earlier. It's like Predator is a big IP, and the fact that they just put it straight on streaming is very odd. Yeah,
And
that warrants a theatrical release for sure.
definitely,
Yeah.
yeah. It's you mentioned, Aiden, about the 10-year plan, or do they have a plan? And I know
Yeah.
that the guy from, I think he's from Discovery,
He's
maybe
from Discovery, yeah,
Yeah.
because Discovery bought the company. It's kind
Yeah.
of weird.
guy. I probably butchered that name. I don't know what his name is, but um, he is looking at a 10-year plan, and he was the one who cut Batgirl. But like honestly, I, in my personal opinion, I don't see DC being able to do like a thing that the Marvel was like a really unique circumstance, and they had a good creator at the forefront with Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that the material works for DC in the same way. Also, there's a level of patience that's required that,
Yes.
as far as I can see, DC does not have.
Yeah.
So they can certainly, try, but I I just don't think they're as well suited to do something like that. When like I think the strongest creative strategy they could have is say, who gives a crap about continuity and just do films like the Batman,
Yeah. I
just
agree 100%.
assign a creator who is passionate about the material, which we'll get into more today. Um, and, say, do what you want with the characters, make the best movie you can.
Yeah.
Um,
Which they're
and,
sort of doing, because like their Joker 2 is gonna be this musical with like
yeah,
Lady Gaga in it. And I mean like yeah, like they have like the Batman and Joker. I don't think the Joker is very good, but they did kind of have that strategy of this is just a one-off thing. Todd Phillips seemed to care a lot about it. Um, as much as I don't think it turned out that well, but but I mean, like, yeah, I agree that that's the best strategy going forward for them because I think it's too much of a mess. I think they don't have the patience for it. I think they just make these one-off movies, and then if it turns out they have something in the years, then maybe they develop something. But
Because it's really difficult because like the fans already invested in the current actors, and the cleanest and the best way they can do it is a hard reboot. But the fans are already attached to like actors like Henry Cavill. A lot
he's
of
not
people are still
coming
really
back.
passionate about Jason Momoa and Ben Affleck. So like by recasting them, you're just letting go a big portion of your fan base, and obviously they don't want that. So they just can't have the best of both worlds right now.
Yeah.
Very difficult situation for them.
First off, Henry Cavill is not coming back. People who are holding on to that's a pipe dream. Like it's not
I
happening.
think he is, but I don't think he will anytime soon. He has enough big projects going on that this just like he obviously like he still wants to be Superman, but he has enough big projects going on that this won't be a priority right now.
I've heard rumblings on the internet that he could be more likely to appear in another studio's franchise and could
Honestly, that would be awful. I
kind of
don't want to see Henry Cavill in Marvel.
well, like it would be like an on the nose casting. Like we know he's Superman,
mm,
and then this is a character that's very similar. So I won't get more into that, but yeah, I just want to say like DC's best movies in recent years. Let's say Wonder Woman, the Batman, Joker. You know, it's not the best thing, but it's
yeah,
definitely that one and the Suicide Squad. Those four are off the top of my head are more interesting and
yeah,
probably better movies than anything Marvel has ever put out. It's kind of
probably.
like
Yeah.
a hot take there, but Marvel movies.
That's a really hot take, bro.
I
I
wouldn't. I
don't
wouldn't put.
I
I.
don't agree with that.
I wouldn't put Joker there, but other than that, I think I'm with you.
Okay, yeah, maybe maybe
Yeah.
not Joker, but I appreciate it at the very least that the Joker does not look like any of the other movies
Right. Yeah.
and is committed to its own style, whether or not it's you know
Yeah.
good narrative, good
No,
that's a different thing.
I definitely appreciate about it that like clearly there were creators behind it that had a vision for it and cared. I thought it was bad, but like yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. As for this whole Flash thing, I wouldn't want to like scrap the movie entirely. I feel like in the same vein as Batgirl, I'd say there's for the one person who's committing all these crimes, there's thousands. I don't know. Credits go forever, so I assume thousands
Yeah.
of people who worked real hard on this movie and
Yeah.
would probably appreciate having it see the light of day. So I'd honestly say like maybe option one is the best. Um,
I'm
no,
waiting for the interview, man. Ezra Miller, explain yourself.
You know, it looks bad that Warner Brothers is continually like refusing to say anything. Like they're kind of like pretending it's not happening, and they keep
Yeah.
pushing the release date until things blow over. But it's not going to blow over, and people
Dude, they're scared too, man. Like
what?
they're scared too. Like honestly, because like that's what you get for hiring a volatile actor like that. You know, like
They're probably scared that he's gonna, or that they're gonna like crime them or something. I don't know.
dude, all they want right now,
Brothers.
low key, is just to lock Ezra Miller up right now, because so that he can't do anything that's worse. You know.
Yeah, lock them up sounds a little, but get them help. It sounds
Yeah.
nicer. I'd say yes, get them help is
And
probably
don't let them go back to Hawaii.
no,
Can't go back.
or Vermont or Iceland.
Dude, Iceland, man.
Get them on the no-fly list.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think they should scrap it. Okay, last bit of news. Apparently, this is so funny. This is also DC. They're renaming. If you knew about this, there's a show that DC is producing about about Alfred Pennyworth, Batman's butler, and it's somehow gone on for 3 seasons. I don't know how that's possible. Who's watching the show, first of all? Anyways, they're renaming the show to Pennyworth, the origins of Batman's butler. Just in case you weren't sure.
Dude, didn't they ran into the same issue with Birds of Prey though. They had to rename it so people know that it's actually a DC property that they're watching.
What was it called originally?
It was just Birds of Prey, and then it was Birds of Prey something Emancipation or Harley Quinn or something.
Fantabulous Emancipation.
Yeah, here you go.
Harley Quinn.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's another example of a terrible title.
Yeah.
And that's more about the inclusion of Harley, who's like, DC's Deadpool. It'll sell.
Yeah.
It'll sell if you add Harley in it. Seems to be the case. Yeah, that's just that's ridiculous. And honestly, on brand for DC right now.
Yeah, because it's like the show's like 3 seasons deep. Like no one knew is gonna come.
Exactly.
It's the Batman show. Oh, watch it now.
Exactly. And, like the people watching it, like I can't imagine they're watching it for like the Batman lore, but also why else would you be watching it? I don't, because there's no like Batman characters. It's not like the Gotham show where like it was centered around Gotham's Batman's rogue gallery before they were villains, which was was a fun idea. But this is like I've looked into it, like it's literally no one I recognize. It's I think the guy who invents the stuff, Lucius Fox. What's the actor's name who played him in Nolan?
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman. Yeah. So Morgan Freeman, his character. Anyways, in other news, this week we're going to be watching She-Hulk, the origin of the Hulk's cousin, who is a lawyer and also a woman. So excited for that. That's the official subtitle, by the way. No.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I've lost complete faith in D+ shows. Like, unless I've heard good things about the finale, I won't be watching it, honestly.
I agree with you, but also I'd say the stakes are much lower on this one, given that it's a half-hour comedy, like lawyer serial type show. So the stakes leading up to the finale are much lower. So I
see that is true. I'd agree with you. But the thing is, they can't just get away with mediocre shows and you slap on some Marvel IP, all of a sudden it becomes, the hottest show on the internet right now. Because like if I'm looking for a comedy, I'm sure like there are many other like 30-20 minute comedy out there that's doing much better than She-Hulk, because you watch She-Hulk partly for the Marvel IP. So I just think that the fact that I think Moon Knight is just a really great example of that. Them getting away with the mediocre show, but like people watch it because it's Moon Knight. It's this amazing character that a lot of people that has a cult following, and then a lot of people adore it. So I don't know, man. I think we have to wait and see on this one.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna watch it. I like after Thor 4, like I just said to myself, like I guess we'll get into that. I'm free. I'm freeing myself from the shackles. I've watched every MCU thing, and I'm done at this point. I'm gonna watch Black Panther 2 because I think it looks cool. Um, and like that's like it. It has to look really cool for me to watch it from this point out.
Fair
Yeah, I'm
enough.
done.
So
Honestly,
yeah,
isn't that a good thing though? Sort of like
Yeah,
getting out of the Marvel addiction, you know?
yeah,
yeah, I'd say like yeah. I mean, to Marvel's credit, I think the whole point is the IP to a degree. Like you're watching the Marvel shows for the Marvel IP because it's a Marvel show. So like, what are you expecting here? But I do also agree that they should just make good shows. Like
yeah,
if they put more
Exactly. Yeah.
time into the pre-production of these shows, I think they could have had much better stuff. Also, I mean, just the way they limit themselves with 6 episodes is like
yeah,
it's a handicap. They're making shows with like one hand tied behind their back. It doesn't make any
yeah.
sense. But somebody mentioned a certain Thor 4, more Thor with Gorr and Korg.
Yeah.
That's the movie we're reviewing today. So, first off, we're going to start with a new segment that we're going to try out. It's called Guess the Metacritic Score. Not the best title, we'll work on it. So, Metacritic is a site where they kind of like average out reviews from critics. So it's not like Rotten Tomatoes where anybody can say anything. I mean, there is another score on Metacritic for that, but its biggest score that we're talking about here is just what the critics think.
Hmm.
And so it averages those out, and then it gives it a score out of 100. It's unlike Rotten Tomatoes, which tends to kind of like group things up at the higher scores, and the worst movies get kind of at the lower scores. Metacritic is kind of like a nicer like blend of all scores, so you're more
Mm,
likely to find scores of any number really.
sure.
And they also split it up by kind of like a color coding system. So 60 and above is green. So kind of like this is good to great. So yeah, 60 and above is green. 80 and above gets a kind of like a special green, like it's must see. I think it's between 49 and 59 or so is yellow, and then the 40s and below are red. So we're gonna try and guess what Thor: Love and Thunder's Metacritic score is today. So let's start with Peter.
Dude, why do I have a feeling that the audience score for this movie will be much lower? Because I feel like the audience ripped into it much more than the critics did, at least like from the initial screening. I'm gonna say it's in the yellow range, and 55 will
Hmm.
be my guess.
Aiden?
Yeah. I think that like Marvel seems to get like a certain bias sometimes. I think where people are like, yeah, this is good enough and it's fun. I'm gonna go like 65.
Interesting. Yeah, I know Eternals got yellow, so they're not immune to it, but I want to say that was the first time that happened.
That's like the lowest
So,
rated MCU one too, I think.
yeah.
Or is
Yeah,
it?
people really didn't like that one. I still haven't seen it.
um, I'm gonna Peter. What was yours again? 50.
55. I say yellow and 55.
We got a 55 and a 65, so I'm gonna play it safe and go with an even 60. So let's see what it says. Okay, I think that means Peter wins. It was a 57, so
Oh
it
yeah.
did get
Bro, what did I say?
in the yellow.
Well,
57.
let's see. I wonder what the audience score is for that.
Sure, I'll check. 5.3. So for some reason, audience is at a 10,
That
which
makes
doesn't make any sense to me. But
Yeah, the audience is lower then. That's interesting. Cool.
yeah. Okay, so Peter, who is going first for a non-spoiler reaction?
All right. I'll go first. This movie is still relatively fresh in my mind. I saw it yesterday afternoon. So honestly, first of all, I just want to say this movie does deserve some of the hate it gets, but it doesn't deserve all of them. I think it's really criminal for Marvel to hire amazing, amazing A-listers and just completely waste them. Like I think like we sort of saw that in Moon Knight with Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke. I think like these two criminally wasted. They're much better than what they've showcased on screen, and I think same case can be said for Christian Bale here. Just like when you say Christian Bale, you think of movies like Batman, American Psycho. Like these are like amazing movies where Christian Bale like embodies the character, inhabits it, and just delivers a just breathtaking performance. But here, it's just first of all, his character doesn't get as much screen time to sort of build. Sorry, I felt like should we get into this during the spoiler part, or should I just get into it now?
This is the non-spoiler.
Non-spoiler. Okay.
Say whatever you
so
can.
okay. So, I'm sorry. I'll keep it short. Now I'll keep it short. So Christian Bale wasted, but I think the movie somehow, because like when you think like Thor, you don't think about like you think about like this sort of like it's like a fun movie. It's not, at least like after Taika's taking over, like it's lighthearted, and I think it delivers on all that front. And honestly, I think the character, like especially like the main cast, when it comes to character building and emotions, it's a new high for Thor. I feel like compared to Ragnarok at least. So for me, I think it's a solid 3 and 3.5 out of 5. I don't think it's as low as a 2-star, but I don't think it is as great as a 4-star. So 3 or 3.5 for me.
Okay, and one more question for you, Peter. So I'm glad you gave a rating for that. And then what would you rec this to someone else? Would you say like go watch this, or who would you say that to? What kind of
I think that's really tough because like if we look at it, it's a fun movie, but it's not a good movie. It's like that type of. It's like these action films where like the plot's gonna be shit. Like the like it's gonna be cheesy. It's gonna be like, oh, the world's ending. We gotta save the world type of thing. But like you enjoy it nonetheless because like it's fun, and then it packs the action with it. So I'd say for relaxing, like Sunday night, Friday night movie, maybe. But then that's about the only occasion I watch it, to be honest.
Okay, Aidan, what is your non-spoiler reaction to this movie?
Yeah. Without coming across too harsh, I thought it was really bad. I went in with very low expectations. Like I had heard this is a bad one, and it was way worse than I thought it was going to be. Just like to briefly summarize some of the things, like I thought the script was the first draft, like literally the first draft. Like they just like vomited onto their keyboards. Um, I completely agree. Christian Bale was wasted, and I like appreciated that they tried to have more emotional development than Ragnarok, but I don't think any of it really landed for me. I think it was also trying too hard to be funny, and I didn't think it was funny. I thought the action scenes weren't exciting. I thought the shots were boring. I didn't think there was anything like tantalizing, like looking at the movie. Um, yeah, I thought it was really bad, and I'd give it like 1 star, like 1.5 out of 5. Like,
Alex, we should add a new segment. Did you fall asleep when watching this movie? We should
no,
ask that question.
I did in the theater. I was like, man, I have to go to the bathroom. Do I think this scene's gonna be cool? And then I was just like, I got up. So I missed like 4 minutes of it, but yeah.
Okay, so would you recommend this movie to someone else?
I would
And if
only
so, what kind of moviegoer?
Yeah, so I would only recommend it. Like I was visiting family earlier this summer, and every family member I talked to really liked it. They said they
Oh
thought it was
no.
really funny, and they were like, "Yeah, this is great." So I guess like if you want to just go and like I guess like you were saying, Peter, like if you just want to go and like on a Friday night and like have a good time, and you're not super into movies, and you've been generally following the MCU, like yeah, it might be fine for you. But that's about like the only. I don't think even to that demographic I'd recommend it. I think I would just be like, yeah, if you want to, you know.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I'll go. Yeah, I went in hoping that I was gonna like it. I had seen, kind of like lots of people kind of praising it, and I saw some people going, "Yeah, this wasn't so great." So I did see like a mix of reactions, and I was trying my very hardest to like really like this one. After another fairly disappointing Doctor Strange, um, and yeah, it did not work for me on almost any level. It wasn't well written. Like you said, I would go as far to say that this wasn't a first draft. This was an outline. Like they
Yeah.
wrote an outline, first drafted an outline, and then they just kind of went like, okay, that's enough, and then improvise the rest. Because I know, and honestly, like that's not even the craziest speculation because they did improv quite a bit as I understand it. The comedy was not funny. Like I think out of hundreds of jokes, maybe like 5 worked,
Yeah.
and more of them were kind of like I might have like exhaled through my nose, like that sound, like I guess
Yeah.
kind of acknowledging that that was supposed to be funny. More often than not, I was laughing at the movie. I unfortunately did see this 2 times. Um, why did I subject myself to this torture? First time was to see it. Second time, I saw it with my cousin and my brother because they hadn't seen it and they wanted to see it. And I was like, okay, I guess. So I went, so I've seen it twice, so I can definitely like double down on this. I did not like the movie. I think it's one of the worst Marvel products to this date. Um, so yeah, really disappointed. Um, I would give it. I think I on Letterboxd I did give it 1.5. I could see myself being like, okay, like maybe it's a 2, but like just the disappointment I feel from this is really making me want to drag that score down.
Dude, you're like that In-N-Out burger guy. It's like my disappointment is immeasurable and my day's ruined.
I did not know that was an In-N-Out Burger thing, but yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
As for recommendations, I think this movie does work for some people. I think the younger you are, the more you would enjoy this. I will get into this rather quickly after this section, but I think this movie is sort of meant for children, so children would probably get more out of this. I also think that maybe like older millennials slash younger, what is that, Gen X?
Gen X, I think it's the next one.
Like not boomers, but after boomers, before millennials.
Yeah.
I think is kind of like basically Taika's
My
age.
family was in
You
that. Yeah.
I think they would enjoy it because they can kind of like get away from the Marvel of it all, and they're just watching it as like a funny movie, and they're like, "Yeah, this is fun."
Yeah.
Definitely like the jokes are like probably like dad jokes level, and also I feel like this movie is kind of like just a big sketch comedy routine. So if you liked SNL, like I think you would like this because it just feels like a 2-hour SNL sketch. Like that's the quality.
But
So
like a bad
yeah.
one, like one of the bad ones, because they generally have like one that's like pretty funny every week.
Okay,
But, like,
yeah.
This is one of the bad ones.
I was about to say like, are there good ones? But no, I know. Yeah. So yeah, let's start getting into it. We'll still start off with kind of like relatively no spoilers, but
Sure.
and then yeah, I'll give a spoiler warning before we go into it into that territory. So first of all, I kind of mentioned this in my review. Who do you think this movie is made for? Like when Taika was making this movie, who is he writing it for?
I do think he was like very much targeting it. I think he was really going for that like millennial Gen X sort of deal, like that, because to me, like it really is that style of like it reminded me the way it's shot too. It reminds me of like they just like plop the camera down and it's like, all right, let's just get some actors to come and like do some stuff. And I feel like that like it reminds me of like a lot of comedies that were really popular in like the 2000s. And like so to me it's hitting, I guess in my mind it's hitting like the millennial slash young Gen X audience.
Peter, what do you think?
Honestly, no clue, man. No fucking clue. When I watched this movie, I think you're right about kids, honestly, because it's loud and the goats. Like is that spoiler? No, yes.
Goats are in the trailers.
Okay, I can talk about the goats.
You
Fuck
can-
them goats, man.
Fuck
Get
the
the
goats.
goats out of the movie.
Yeah.
Dude, it just randomly, all of a sudden, you just hear a loud scream, and that sounds like a human scream.
Yeah.
Not even like goat scream, bro. Like,
it wasn't funny.
goats out of the movie.
It wasn't funny at all. Like my
It was not funny at all.
It wasn't funny the first time, and it definitely wasn't funny the 30th time.
No, like
It gets worse.
it was a 2012 Facebook meme. Like my Letterboxd review of it was literally all I wrote in the words was when I first saw the goats, I was like, "Oh man, I hope they're not here for the whole movie." And then
Did you hear the story? Apparently, someone on set showed Taika the video where it's one of Taylor Swift's songs.
Yeah.
I want to say
like,
Oh,
Trouble?
it's Shake It Off,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
no. I think it's Trouble because it goes.
Oh yeah.
And they replaced the ahs or whatever with the goat screams.
Mhm.
And they showed it to Taika, and he had never seen it before. I don't know how. I don't know how it escaped him, but he was like, "Oh, this is what the goats are gonna sound like."
Yeah.
So wherever that person is, I hate you.
Yeah.
It's not all his fault. But
That's what I mean. It had to have been like an old millennial slash young Gen X that showed him that. Like that's the only because that's the only person that would like think that's
still
funny.
find that funny.
Yeah.
Oh God. So I would say that kind of like I alluded to this, but I would say that this was meant for children. I think Taika being a father of young kids was like, I'm making a movie for them. The one thing that confounds me is the fact that it is rated PG-13 and that this is a movie where there is a god butcherer and there is a character that says orgy, I want to say 9 times. Clearly oriented towards children, and I'm just like, pick one. Like, it doesn't make sense. Why are there so many kids in this movie? It has to be for kids, and then it doesn't feel like that at all. It's so weird. It doesn't make any sense.
Dude, that's hilarious.
We can get into this. I don't know if you want to bring this now, but like the kids was like how they did that was like one of my problems with the movie, like relating to the kids. We don't have to. That's a little ahead in the movie, but
yeah, I'd say let's save it because I prefer to add spoilers into that discussion because I agree the kids. The kids, man, I really hated that. So how would you compare this movie to Ragnarok? So let's say you've got someone who enjoyed Ragnarok or maybe didn't enjoy Ragnarok. How would you say this one improves upon the last one or is worse from the last one? What do you think?
Dude, all I'm gonna say is no Tom Hiddleston. Boom, that's a 2-star drop right there. All you need is bring Tom Hiddleston back. This movie instant 4-star.
Dude,
no questions asked.
I don't even fuck with Loki like that. I don't really care about Loki, but I think Ragnarok is way better. Like, I think Ragnarok had the common criticism where people generally liked it, and the criticism was like, oh, there's so many jokes that like you don't really feel anything. But for me, like
you haven't seen Love and Thunder yet.
Exactly. Like Love and Thunder like tried to like insert these like more emotional moments, and they didn't work at all, and the jokes were worse. And to me, Ragnarok was like it was a lot more fun. I thought the jokes were funny. And I also thought the script actually built the stakes. Like you actually felt tension rise as the script went on. One of my big problems with Thor 4 doesn't rise at all. Like I at no point in the movie did I feel threatened by anything. So in terms of who I'd recommend it to, if someone liked Ragnarok, if they really, really love Taika Waititi, like they're a big like fan of his, then they might still like this because I. But then again, like it's his style, but it's him phoning it in on his own style. So
Right? Yeah.
like I don't know, like because I liked Ragnarok. I really love. I don't know if you've seen Hunt for the Wilder People. That's one of his first movies. I love that movie.
Amazing movie.
I watched Hunt for the Wilder People on the same day that I watched it. I've seen it maybe 2 other times before, so this was like a repeat viewing. I
Yeah.
watched it on the same day that I rewatched Thor: Love and Thunder, and I am still like the whiplash between.
It's not the same director, bro.
It's so weird. Yeah.
I just want to say though, like Thor Ragnarok made me love Korg. Like Korg is hilarious, throughout the movie, But like in this movie, I don't know what they did. Korg was not funny at all.
We'll get into Korg. We'll get into
Yeah.
Korg.
Korg was not hitting.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
So would you both agree that you liked Thor Ragnarok?
I enjoyed it, yeah.
Yep. Okay. And you've both seen it multiple times or just one?
I've seen it a bunch of times, handful.
I've seen it only once.
Only once, okay.
Yeah.
So I've seen Ragnarok, I want to say 3 times now, so not that many.
Just 3.
It's 3. Well, come on, it released 5 years ago. Like, more people have seen it more times. Anyways, I have to say, the first time I watched it in theaters, I was loving it. That was right during the height of like Marvel era. Like Peter and I and our friends were like seeing all the latest releases. So it was great. We loved it.
Yeah.
Every time I've rewatched it, I've been like, what happened? Like I it's gotten worse every single time I've watched it. And I think I've kind of like figured out why I didn't like it. And Aidan did kind of like point some of the things out. There's zero emotion in the movie. Literally like all this crappy stuff happens to Thor, and he never like misses a beat. Like he's so happy all the time, and it's weird.
Yeah.
The movie feels very fake. Like 90% of the time, it's like, oh, I can tell like the green screen's right there.
Yeah.
The CGI isn't great. The color correction is like concrete. For like Jack Kirby's like colorful designs, and it still looks like dull gray, which is so bizarre to me. It does have more like the stakes and like the like general script things, more so than Love and Thunder. But Hela is a terrible villain when you get down to it. I love Kate Blanchett's performance of what she was able to give, but literally like she takes over Asgard and then just waits just wastes her time with like Scourge and trying to make him do stuff. And so yeah, I've become disappointed with Ragnarok over time. The jokes are still they're funnier than Love and Thunder, but still like not Taika's best work. So then going on to Love and Thunder, and I think the third time I rewatched Ragnarok was just like 2 days before Love and Thunder, so it was fresh in my mind. What Aidan said about there being an attempt at emotion in this movie, I 100% agree. I could see that they were trying, which was nice. Did they succeed? No, not at all. But it's the thought that counts, some people say. And then I think the other thing they improved upon in this one was the villain. I think Gorr is more convincing as a villain, as far as like motivation goes. He doesn't. He kind of falls into the same issues as Hela. Don't want to say much more than that in non-spoilers, but could have been better. But I think if I had to compare the two, I think Gorr is better than Hela.
I agree. I liked Gorr, but I didn't. I liked the concept of him, but I did not like what they did with him, and I can get more into that.
Neither did I, but I think comparatively.
Yeah.
So then, let's get into talking about some of the cast. So while we're on the topic of Gorr, what did you guys think about Bale's performance? Still non-spoilers as much as we can. Bale and Gorr.
Yeah, I thought he was really great. I mean, I thought he did a really good job. Every scene he was in, I was like, oh, okay. And like I was starting to get into it a little bit more. I thought he was good.
Peter?
Hard cap. I think Bale was fucking terrible. I
Really?
think he just did it for the bag, bro. He was so bad, dude. Like as I said before, when you say Bale, I think of American Psycho, Batman,
Prestige.
all these
I'm
movies.
surprised you haven't mentioned the Prestige. You love that movie.
Oh yeah, Prestige. He did Prestige too,
Yeah.
dude. Oh my god. And when it comes to this movie, it's like I think it's not really Bale's fault, maybe just because like I think they just did a really terrible job setting up Gorr as a character. Like they're just like, hey, look at the scene. He's sad now. He wants to kill gods. So do you get that? He wants to kill God because he's sad, right? and then like we don't see him. Like we don't really see him grow as the God Butcher. We just see him before the God Butcher and him when he is already the God Butcher. You know,
Yeah.
so like there are gaps to fill in that the movie doesn't really do that for you at all. The movie's like, hey, fill in your heads. Like a couple years past, he's killing gods now. So
Yeah. I think. Sorry. Yeah. What were you saying?
and like I think like it's just like was he doing sort of like an accent switch when he was like corrupted and before he was corrupted?
I don't think so. He's not British in this movie, is he?
Because I remember when he was not corrupted, he was talking an American accent, but when he was corrupted, he's sort of talking with like a different accent. I don't know. Maybe it's just like. But I just feel like he doesn't sell Gorr as a character at all. I think it's a combination of factors. It's just not him. It's probably not like solely his fault, but like it's the characters that like I don't feel like I feel Gorr as like a creepy old man instead of like this all powerful creature that's on the hunt because he's driven, So I just feel like they got the identity of the character completely wrong, and and like for Bale's caliber, like when Bale got announced, everyone was excited. It's like Marvel's best villain? Question mark? No, it was terrible. I think.
I think he was. I think he was held back by the material. So if we look at it just from like just acting like how he did with what he was given, I think he did a pretty good job. There's definitely some like interesting choices that we'll get into. There's one scene in particular where he's trying to like. I guess I can't get into it without getting into kind of minor spoilers.
Like I think what makes Bale such a great actor is that he's able to deliver the emotional complexity of a character. He like when like he's I'll take Batman's example because it's easy because like he's able to like switch on and off. Like he's able to show like the pain and suffering of Batman, and he's able to show the pain and suffering of Bruce Wayne, and he's able to switch on and off like that. But like with Gorr, it just feels so one dimensional. It's like before he's Gorr, he's good, loving father, and then after he's Gorr, he's just bloodthirsty, and like it's not convincing. And it might be the writing, it might be him, but overall, I just think like he is not meant for that role, or like at least like the way Taika's written it.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I definitely had that problem with the writing. But I definitely felt like when Bale was on screen, he was like one of the only captivating things in the movie to me.
Yeah, I would say that even though it was like I agree that I think the character can be a bit one-dimensional in some ways. I'd say that the performance does kind of like reach out at you and like grab you more so than like most of the performances. Like he could have phoned it in, and I don't think he did. I think he was still trying, as much as he tries in any other movie. I don't think he was kind of like looking down on the Marvel movies. I think he was trying, and honestly, I think his performance was like one of the decent things about this movie, even though the character's not great.
Dude, I completely disagree. I really enjoyed Hemsworth and Natalie Portman's performance and Tessa Thompson's performance in this movie.
Let's get into that. So let's go through each of them separately. So Hemsworth, Peter, tell me what you think about.
Because I feel like I think what's so great about Taika era's Thor movie, because like before Taika era, there's sort of it's almost like so when what's the guy's name that did Thor 1 and 2? He's
Oh,
also
two different guys. One
Yeah,
was
Kenneth
Kevin
Branagh did
Branagh.
one.
Kenneth
yeah,
was
I'm pretty sure it was Kenneth for both, right?
no. The second one was Alan Taylor. I want to say he was a
Okay.
Game of Thrones director, actually.
Okay, so like I feel like in that era of Thor film, like they really showcase sort of like the struggle for Asgard's throne and struggle of like power like between Thor and Loki, and then while facing sort of an external threat at the same time. So it's like Thor is like this wary person, and it's no fun seeing Thor like that, you know, and I felt like Taika completely thrown that out of the window and just focused on Thor being this like um, whimsical space Viking, pretty much. And then I think if we want to get into it, but like in during the Infinity War and Endgame era, we sort of see a combination of that. So like Thor being like this, you know, he's wary for this external threat, that's Thanos, but he's willing to have fun on the way, you know. And many people say like that era of Thor is the best Thor. I sort of agree with that, but like in this film in particular, I felt like a lot of relationships like surrounding Thor feels really artificial. Feels really like about like the best relationship Thor has is between like Thor and Loki. It's just sort of like you know, from like complete rivals to turn it into like, you know, allied against Thanos. I think that's a great arc, and I feel like his arc with Jane Foster didn't really get me in the first two Thor film, but it really did in this Thor film. I don't know why, but like I just felt the connection felt really genuine. That like the I don't know whether it's because like the way they sort of like they showcase sort of like this really heavy sort of like storyline between these two with like a really carefree narration by Korg, and like when you really like read into what's on screen, now you can see like this is just like, you know, it's almost like 500 Days of Summer, but like more lighthearted manner. Um, and then eventually, you know, when dude, I can't get into spoilers, can I? I want to talk about Jay, but I can't. But
Well,
I,
just so you thought he was like pretty good, Hemsworth, as far as acting, like.
I think so, yeah, because I feel like at least like the way they played the relationship with Jay in this one, it caught me by surprise. The way they handled it and the eventual conclusion of it, and also like it felt really genuine that Thor has, you know, he's been fighting for all his life. He's like, you know, he's never really had a moment of like respite. He never really like he wants to like as like earlier on in the movie like he feels empty, and I feel like this movie showcases how the emptiness is fulfilled, and I really love that. I think that was really well done. Yeah.
Okay, Aiden, what did you think about Chris Hemsworth?
Yeah, I mean, I think he clearly cares a lot about it. Like, I think he put a lot of energy into it. I didn't really have a problem with him. I would agree that like when Ragnarok first came out, and we kind of have this new Thor who's like a bit dumber, a bit goofier, and a bit like stronger. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. But this time around, I thought he was too dumb. I was like, there were some scenes where I was just like, oh my god, man. Um, yeah, I mean, like this is more writing, but I didn't like his arc. I didn't think it was very developed. I don't think it was developed very well. And I really didn't buy into any of the emotional scenes. I don't know if that was again. I feel like that was largely a writing thing. But yeah, I also just didn't think. I think my most of my problems were writing, but I'll just leave it at I think
Fair enough.
Chris Hemsworth put good energy into it. I think he cares, and I thought it was fine.
I would say that, yeah, I think, yeah, I think that Chris Hemsworth did a good job in this movie, more or less. I agree that the characterization has changed quite a bit over the years. Dumb Thor is a choice, one that I'm not crazy about. I agree that Infinity War era Thor, or you know, Russo brothers version of Thor, is one of the best ones. Uh, I think Chris Hemsworth does have a talent for comedy. I don't know that all of his jokes work. There's one that is in some of the trailers, so I'm going to talk about it. It's early in the film too, where he's like saying bye to Star Lord, and then he does this weird Asgardian handshake, and that was 100% improv. And I'm like, this isn't really that funny. I don't know why they kept it in the movie, but yeah, I'd say that Chris Hemsworth really does put a lot of his energy into this movie, and I think he does a pretty good job. Um, One of you mentioned his romance with Jane in the movie, so let's kind of shuffle our way into that. What did you think about, without again, no spoilers, which is going to be tough? So just talk about the performance. What do you guys think about Natalie Portman as Jane Foster?
Much, much better than first two. First two, she's just there as Thor's girlfriend. This one, she's an actual character now, which is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Again, let's focus more on like the performance more than the writing. It's I know it's like hard to separate those two things, but
I'd say, performance-wise, I think she did a very convincing job. You know,
Mhm.
given something happened in the movie, and I think she portrays that perfectly. And like the sort of struggle between balancing being Mikey Thor and being just a normal person. She given like even though like she's featured in I say a good amount in the movie, she still has like limited screen time to showcase like the emotional stuff because a lot of it is fight scenes. Given like the limited time she has, I think she did a fantastic job. It really loves good.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a big problem with it, but I felt like there wasn't much complexity behind because what she's going through in the movie is pretty. It's momentous. It's quite big.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. I didn't really feel like there was much dynamic uh emotion to her performance. I felt like she was either doing one thing or the other instead of, having some grief in with her happiness and there being like a sense that her happiness is fleeting. I guess I won't get into too much, but yeah.
Yeah.
I thought she was fine.
Fine. Okay. I'm I'm between fine and not great, uh, which might it sounds like that might be a hot take here. Um, when Peter said that this performance was better than the other movies, I don't know if I agree with that. Which I think her performance in Thor one, which I think Thor one is like not a it's a really boring movie, but like structurally, like it's pretty sound, which is apparently a lot for a Thor movie. It's hard for them to be good. Um, but yeah, I did admire her performance more or less in Thor 1. And here she's trying to be funny and it never worked. Chris Hemsworth was hit or miss, other characters were hit or miss. Jane Foster was never funny for me. I just don't think she's the kind of character or actor who can do funny. It's a hard
Yeah.
thing. And I personally did not buy the romance between Thor and Jane. I Not even a little bit. I didn't
Yeah.
see from there was just somehow the chemistry that was kind of in the first two movies was not here.
Yeah.
Whether that's a direction thing or a writing thing, could be
Oh.
part of the influence. But yeah, I really did not like Jane Foster in this
Yeah.
movie.
I just as you're sorry to cut you off, but just as you were talking, like I had a like flashback to one of the scenes where it's her and Valkyrie talking in like a doorway,
Oh
and I
God,
was just
yeah.
like, that was bad. That one was
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
Yeah.
And some people have been saying that. Okay, we'll do one more cast. I was gonna skip ahead from cast, but people have been saying that Tessa Thompson was phoning in her performance as Valkyrie.
Oh, I liked her
Um,
actually.
I The same thing for me. I was gonna say actually, I thought that her performance was more interesting than some of the other characters. She kind of has this like almost deadpan quality to her, where she's as close to a straight man in this comedy as
Hmm.
there is, because there almost isn't. For people who don't know, straight man in comedy is just, you have a bunch of characters who are acting goofy, um, and then there's the one character who is not, and that's the straight man. So the best example of that is, at least in my mind, is Jim from The Office. So
Oh yeah.
Michael and Dwight are like acting like a fool, and then it's Jim that looks in the camera, and he's like, "What the heck is going on?" And that's kind of like what's funny about it.
Or like any
Um,
character Jason Bateman plays.
yeah, yeah, yeah. In Arrested Development, great show.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I I think like I would like more Valkyrie actually. Like I think she could, have a good D+ show if they would give her like enough episodes to do something, and we're not afraid of gay people. Because like, come on, Disney. We'll
Yeah.
get into that for this movie, but God, Peter, what are your thoughts on Valkyrie?
I mean, I've always loved Tessa Thompson. She's great in
She's great.
Westworld.
Yeah.
She's great here. She's great anywhere. And I'm really quite impressed by her British accent as well. She did a really good British accent.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, because she's American. Sometimes I forget about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's enough for non-spoilers. I think it's time we get into this movie. So this is
Sure.
your official spoiler warning. We're going to get, for lack of a better word, down and dirty into spoiler zone. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want things spoiled, maybe stop listening now and come back later. If you don't plan on watching this movie, I think we'll cover it thoroughly enough that you can follow along with the plot and maybe laugh along as we really dissect what we hate about this movie, or maybe enjoyed for some of us. So, first of all, how does this movie start?
With the
Let's
gore
go with,
scene.
yeah, Aidan, why don't you lead us to the opening?
Sure. Yeah, so the first thing I wrote in my notes here is that I think the opening scene is fine. It's like right off the bat, it's like this scene is okay. I like that. Like one of my problems with movies, like they don't show like shit for Gore's development, but this is the one
Mhm.
scene where we get a little bit of Gore and we get a little bit of like actually showing something happening to him and him doing something. And
Yeah,
so yeah, I liked that it gave us like I liked the scene in the desert with his daughter. I thought that was fine. I thought that it was a little when he does meet the god, I thought it was a little silly. I would have liked if they did it a bit differently. Like the sword kind of just drops into his lap, which I actually think would have been fine for me provided that they leaned into Gorr thinking it was his destiny more. Because I could understand,
mm,
like, if the sword falls into his lap and then he's like, oh, I'm destined to do this, to kill all these gods, but then he doesn't really have that. So, yeah, Alex, you have something to say.
yeah. um, Yeah, I just want to recap for anyone who hasn't watched the movie. So, opens on desert. Gorr and his daughter are walking along on this great desert plain on some planet, we assume. Um, Reminded me a lot of Lawrence of Arabia, but probably only because I just watched it recently. Um, and they're walking along. It seems like they're pretty thirsty. And then out of the blue, well, maybe not out of the blue, Gorr's daughter dies. Sad. And she likes drawing or something, and then she dies. And that's very sad. And so he buries her, and he just kind of cries and cries and cries. And then out of the oasis, or no, out of nowhere, the oasis appears, and there's this lush forested area, and he encounters a god, and I think his name is Rapu or something, and he's this golden god that they worship, and and he's very like mean. He's not very nice. He doesn't care about the fact that Gorr and his daughter were um, like hardcore worshippers or like whatever you call that, faithful, for example. Um, and so he's very mean to Gorr, kind of like mocks him and the fact that his daughter died. And just kind of like lying nearby is this evil sword. And Gorr's kind of antagonizes the god enough that Rapu starts like choking him, and then the sword just kind of like floats into his hand, and then Gorr stabs Rapu. By the way, Rapu, if you're a Taika Waititi fan, apparently he's played by one of the vampires from What We Do in the Shadows.
Whoa, that's
Great,
cool.
great movie. He's the kind of like the one who thinks he's so sexy, like that guy. Um, anyways, so is that all your thoughts on the opening, Aiden?
Yeah, pretty much. I didn't have much else to say about that.
Okay, what do you think, Peter?
Okay, so this is I think this opening scene just captures pretty much what does not work uh, for me. Like this entire movie, like all the issues, like at least most of the issues, I think is captured by this opening scene. I don't think Marvel is the correct brand to do gore, or Taika is not the correct director to do gore. Now, the reason why I said Marvel is not the correct brand is because Marvel is not willing to go as hardcore. They want to keep everything relatively, like they want to keep everything relatively lighthearted, even in some of the movies featuring some like heavy-hearted stuff. Like I would love to see Rapu showing more cruelty towards these subjects than simply just like, hey, like he's here to crash our party and we're just gonna throw fruits at him. Even though like he's my loyal worshiper, the last one there is, and I think like if Marvel's willing to go to more extremes, I think that will capture Gore's sort of like sudden change to like shift into darkness make that a lot more convincing. And also the other thing I said, Taika might not be the best director for this, is that I felt like it is something that is really heavy, and this is something that I don't think you should turn that into a comedy. 'Cause I think Taika wants to turn a lot of like heavy, like despite how heavy the situation is, he would diffuse it with sort of like either comedic setting or like something comedic within the scene to offset that heaviness. And I really don't think Gorr is someone that you should do that to, because again, I'm not a avid comic reader, so I'm not really sure what his origin is like and how similar it is to like what we showcased on the movie. Like, I think an extended version of this scene would do Gorr a lot more good, like capturing how much he cares about his daughter instead of just like informing us like that it's his daughter that died, so he's the girl's dad, so he probably really cares about her, so this is meant to be a sad scene. Like I don't really feel that much emotion in that scene, and then following up afterwards with like the god stuff again, like the mocking is sort of like that. They capped it off at mocking. And I feel like they really should have pushed on much further than that, because this is a sudden change for Gorr, because Gorr is a loyal worshiper. He worshipped until no one else is left. He's the last. He's the last person that worshipped Rapu in this world, and like that sort of conviction and drive doesn't just get shattered like that, or like instead of just like some like light fruit throwing action. I think either the god has to go overboard or Gorr has to go overboard, like one of the two. And I think it's just a little too. I guess that might just be like the stake problem in this movie as well. It's just like a little too light. They should definitely lean in a lot heavier into the darkness of Gorr and the gods. So
yeah, I mean, I would just say like I actually don't think they needed to have Repu do any more, because I think like if you are this religious zealot and your daughter just died, the only explanation you can think about that is like, okay, well, my god must have a reason, he must have a path. And so then you meet your god and he mocks you, he doesn't care about your daughter, nothing matters, he takes your worship for granted. I think I think literally nothing else could be worse than that. Even if the god like stabbed him, I think that that's not worse. You know what I mean? Like I think that nothing Rapu could have done is worse than that. So I thought that was fine. I wish they dealt with the sword a bit better. I wish they dealt with his turn a bit more, because it's like, does he really start killing every single god after this? Like I agree that it was a little sudden still, but I think that and maybe if they showed a bit more about Gorr's backstory, like maybe he previously was a little erratic, or I don't know. But yeah,
for sure, I agree. Yeah.
I thought that I didn't think they needed. I don't think they were hindered by a PG-13 rating or not going far enough in this scene.
Yeah. Actually, avid comic reader here for Peter. Not avid, but I'm getting into it. And I did read the whole Gorr storyline that this is based on before I watched the movie. So I can provide all the necessary context. So to answer your question, Peter, there is an entire. So I think I want to say the whole Gorr situation is maybe 10 issues of the Thor story. I could be wrong on that. And I want to say one whole issue is just Gorr's origin, and it's handled much better. So spoilers on the comic book if you haven't read it. I would say definitely go check that out because it's what this movie was supposed to be and is so much better. So in that origin, he has a full family, and there's like a tribe of these people. And first his wife dies, and then his other kid dies, and there's this whole tribe of people, and they're like, they just keep telling him, the gods will provide. And eventually Gorr's like, there are no gods. If there were gods, like, why would we be living like this?
Dude, love that.
And I think they, and so, all of that is quite a lot longer than I've just described it. I've summarized it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so he says there's no gods, and his people say, blasphemy, and they stone him. I think they literally stone him. So apparently that happens across the universe. And so he's abandoned by his tribe, and he's all alone, and he starts wandering, and then he does find some gods. He happens upon some gods, and it's a golden god, kind of like Rapu, but not really, and a black colored god, and they've been fighting or something, and they're both really injured, and one has the necro sword. And it's at that moment where Gorr's like, so there were gods, but they just didn't care about us at all. It's not like a Rapu like mocking him scene. It's very much just like the gods were there, but they didn't do anything, so they're not worthy. They shouldn't. And there is an element of the necro sword like kind of like corrupting, corrupting you. So, anyways, as for how the scene was, I feel like what happened is Marvel said, okay, you have 7 minutes to give Gorr's origin, no more, no less. And so they're like, okay, well, that's what we got. And so they just kind of like try to cram it in there, and it didn't. I wanted to like it, but like it happened so quickly.
Yeah.
Think about like Up, right? Up has that heart-wrenching sequence, but it's like what, 10 minutes? I don't know. But like you have to know the characters before you kill them off.
Yeah.
It doesn't work if I've just met this person 2 seconds ago and then they're dead. Like I don't know who this is. It's sad that it's a kid, but like I don't know who this is. And then the Rapu thing was silly. I think it was a bit over the top. Like very like ham-fisted, like this is why he hates the gods, because the gods were like mocking him and throwing fruit at him when I agree that it wasn't necessary. And also like this is kind of like a small thing, but when they use like a close-up of Rapu in the movie, like that just felt like the weirdest shot. I don't know about you guys, but like it's like a really close-up shot of Rapu as he's mocking him. Maybe I'm supposed to feel that way, like it's like he's really in your face. But I don't know. I thought that was weird.
Yeah, I right away watching that scene actually. Also, like the way it was shot, I remember like immediately being like, "Oh, there's something I don't like about this."
Weird.
And then as the movie goes on, it's like I don't like this. I don't like the way
stop. It keeps going. Yeah.
It just gets worse. But yeah, now that you've said that, like, I think they could have been a lot more efficient with their time in this scene, which is one of my biggest criticisms of this movie in general, is that it wastes so much of its time.
So rushed and wasting the time that they do have with bits most often. Yeah. I think what they should have done for this is stretch it out, like give a like a teaser of the Gorr thing. I don't know how you make that kind of thing work. It works well for comic books. Because you don't want to like introduce this stuff too late. Like you do kind of want the Gorr stuff at the beginning, but you don't want to load it all at the. I don't know. So
honestly, though, now that you mentioned the comic book storyline, I wouldn't mind like seeing like 10 minutes of Gorr, like at the beginning where before he corrupted, and how he slowly, because family's death or like unfortunate events on his people, slowly turning towards the dark side, and eventually, like witnessing like inactions of the god. Because that's such a great premise. It's almost like the premise of the Watchmen, where like you have an omnipotent, this like all powerful being, but the being chooses to do nothing. What like is that really like what we're worshiping? Like a being that chooses inaction above all, and that's such a like a deep moral question that they can be asking. Wow, it's a god throwing fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God.
Like if they have like 10 minutes of gore, and then intertwined Gorr's sort of like downfall to darkness with like Thor with the Guardians maybe, and then because that will give Thor a little more time with the Guardians, because I thought like that series of scenes would like so rush as well.
Yeah, let's yeah, I 100% agree that like
Yeah.
10 minutes of gore even would have probably helped a lot. But
Mhm.
yeah, let's get into the Guardians because that's coming up next. Why don't you take us into that? What did you think about the Guardians inclusion in this movie?
So honestly, at least like at the end of Endgame, where we're already seeing sort of a little bit of interaction between Thor and the Guardians in Infinity War, right? They had a little interaction in Infinity War, and then they had a little bit more interaction towards the end of Endgame. Like you just see this hilarious comedic group. Like I want to see a movie where Thor is part of the Guardians,
Right?
But
Yeah.
but like in this movie, it was literally just like, okay, he's with the Guardians. We're not going to show all the fun bits. We're just going to show them do one major fight scene, and then we're going to wrap it up. I get it's the Thor movie, but man, the Guardians were mishandled, man. Like it's just like they're all the Guardians that we know and love, but they have like minimal screen time. Like their talents were not showcased at all, and
Yeah. And
yeah.
they're weird. They're not their
Yeah.
regular selves. They're like a little different, all of them, I'd say.
Yeah, so my take on it is actually like if they want to make a movie that is just Thor, they don't want Guardians in it the whole time. Because I agree it's better if they just have them together. I think that's more interesting. But I would have had less of them. I would have straight up like cut out pretty much that scene where they're just like fighting on this planet. Wasn't
Mhm.
funny, wasn't like action packed, wasn't good action. So it doesn't
Weird,
matter.
yeah.
And what's the point of the scene? It's just to show like,
I
oh,
completely agree.
he's
Yeah.
like he's like powerful, but he's empty. I would rather have them just talk about the fact that they did that, like on the way to go like pick up Lady Sif, because
Oh my god,
there's so
amazing.
much
Yeah.
there's so much of this movie where they're just talking about shit that I want them to show me, and then they show me shit that I would
Yeah.
just rather them talk about. And I think that you can have like a good conversation that sets off that arc with Thor. He can already be on his way to Sif. He can like arrive there and see some of Gorr killing some gods or something, so he gets some action. That scene moves way faster. We don't have to deal with this improv bullshit that isn't funny. Um, yeah, like I really think that it would have been a lot more interesting if they kind of just like dumped him off like right away. Um, yeah,
Because it's not good anyways. It's
yeah,
not.
because
It's not. It's not cool. It's not funny.
if it's gonna just
Yeah.
be like a cameo, then make it like a proper cameo. Like they literally
Yeah.
just drop him off, and that's it.
100% agree. Yeah.
Yeah. I it's this weird thing that Marvel has been getting into where they set up something at the end of one movie and they completely disregard
Yeah.
it.
Exactly. I
As soon as they
100%.
start making
It's
the next
almost just feels like Taika's just like, oh, so he did that. I better wrap that up.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's like why don't they actually I feel like they don't talk to each other or they don't think things through far enough so
Mhm.
that suddenly they're like, "Oh, well, the cliffhanger from the last one we have to change."
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
why? And they're so quickly trying to set up the new movie as they're trying to wrap up what the last movie set up, and it's so bad
Yeah.
every single time. The most egregious example for me is the popular for some reason movie Spider-Man No Way Home. Slight spoilers
Dude.
here, where they like for the first half an hour they're trying to quickly resolve what happened at the end of last movie so that they can do their new stupid multiverse plot that makes no sense. It makes you so mad.
I like that movie.
You liked it?
I like that one. Yeah.
Oh god,
I agree though, Alex, because like I feel like You know, you could have been in this sort of like really peculiar situation with Spider-Man, where like his identity is revealed, and like what would his life be like? But then they just
Yeah.
completely wrote it off, you know, with like 20 minutes
Yeah,
of
because
screen time.
think about most of the movie doesn't matter that he's
Mhm.
Spider-Man. It's just about the like it ties very loosely into
Exactly. Yeah.
why the people are there, but it does in the end it doesn't matter. Anyways, back to the Guardians. Yeah, so like I said, I think they're weird in this movie. I totally agree with Aiden. Like I don't think that first action scene was any good. The best part was the priest. I thought he was pretty funny, where he's like, uh, I don't know. He had like a funny voice and a funny way of speaking, so I thought he
I
was
don't
good.
remember it, so it may have been
Dude,
that.
it just completely cringed me out, man.
He goes like
it's-
oh like that, and I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
I appreciate like a good like little funny acting thing, but yeah, the whole like oh no, the glass thing shattered. What? Like obviously, and those chicken Muppets were really strange
yeah.
choice. And the way Thor fights is weird, and
And his costume sucks. I hate his costume at the
You
beginning.
hated that one?
I hated it. I thought it looked stupid.
the Ravager Thor looks stupid, but like the Cape Thor with like the fur stuff, that one is amazing.
We'll get into that, but I didn't hate his current costume. I thought the Ravager stuff. I didn't mind it. I liked it
Like
kind of
with
like
the vest?
80s.
I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
like
the
it.
80s like hair metal. Like it was a vibe. I kind of dug it. He was definitely going
It's
for like
mid.
Yeah.
80s hair glam metal. This whole
Yeah.
movie. Well, when he remembers, I guess. But
Yeah. Then he plays Sweet
yeah.
Child of Mine. Yeah.
yeah, gosh. But yeah, the Guardians. I don't know. They didn't need to be in this movie. It was just like Russo brothers set it up, and then he was like, "Screw that, we don't need it," and he wrapped it up as quickly as possible. Okay, so before the Guardians thing happened, there was a quick recap of the previous Thor movies. That was interesting.
Oh, just Thor running? That one?
Yeah. It was Thor running, Thor being carried in the baby thing, and yeah, like a literal like every beat of the other movies.
Mm.
That's. I hope they don't do that again because
I mean,
Dude, like the MCU is the most expensive television show ever produced, right? Like
yeah,
it's like we've seen the other episodes. We've seen them.
yeah.
Like why are you like I don't understand. The MCU most of the time doesn't give a fuck if you're caught up or not. I don't know why they suddenly put this scene in here.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like what happens when we get to like Secret Wars, and then it's like
here we go. 20 movies.
gotta recount like yeah, essentially 20 movies, and God, it's so silly. I mean, Taika was trying to be funny about it, and we're using Korg's narration, which of course is not funny.
Bro, I'm so sad, man. How did they fuck up Korg this badly?
Oh God. Do you want to talk about Korg now? Let's talk about Korg.
Okay. First of all, I just want to say when we got to the omnipotent city, right? That's the god city, right?
Yeah,
Korg's god has a throne made of scissors. I just love that. That's a good cameo. It's like Game of Thrones, but it's like scissors.
I didn't catch that, but I do think that's funny actually because it's like rock scissors.
Yeah, no, I didn't get the Game of Thrones bit, but that makes me appreciate it a little bit more. But I just remember seeing it and being like, "That's not funny." like I think he goes like he makes like a really weird non-verbal sound, and I was like, "Nope, not for me."
Yeah, and let's shit on Korg.
What?
Let's shit on Korg.
Shit on Korg. Yeah.
Not fucking funny. Not funny. Doesn't look like he's actually there for most of the movie. Like just not CG did well there.
No, he's not.
Dude, his eyes creep me out.
There's Uncanny Valley, but like rocks.
Yeah.
God. And yeah, full spoilers by the way. When they like fake killed him off, I was so happy.
Dude,
I hate this guy so much. And I was like, finally they're doing something interesting. And then they brought him back. I wanted to like tear my hair out. I was like,
Dude, Taika's not gonna kill his own character, bro. He literally said in an interview that like he purposely put Korg in there, so even if Marvel doesn't hire him to do directing anymore, he still has a role in Marvel.
yeah,
Well, obviously as a joke, but you know.
yeah. I feel like Korg. God. So Thor is, I feel, a self-insert character for Taika. Like this is the like he's writing Thor as if it's himself.
Yeah.
Which explains the ending where Thor gets a kid because Taika just kind of went through that. Not well, a couple of years ago now, but like,
Yeah.
you know, fatherhood is still relatively new for him. And then so we have to suffer through one version of Taika through Thor, and then Taika actually himself in the movie too. Like, dude, I just feel like the ego to do with those things is pretty insane.
Dude, I mean, just think about the circumstance where he was filming, bro. The guy's banging Rita Ora at the same time. Absolute champion.
Or like, yeah, that's interesting. Also, he was like making out with Tessa Thompson too.
Yeah, that was weird. I don't know what that was about.
Aidan, do you know what we're talking about?
Yeah, no, I've heard some of the lore of Taika's exploits. But yeah.
But yeah, I was kind of hoping if they brought Korg back in like immediately, there was an opportunity where I was like, oh, maybe they're gonna like joke about all the other MCU projects. I thought they were gonna do Baby Korg, and I was like,
No.
That would actually be really funny.
so funny. I would have actually appreciated Baby Korg, like a tiny little rock that looks exactly like Baby Groot. But then they did like a face mask, and I was like, what is this? Ugh, it's so weird. I didn't like it.
No, I didn't like it either. I thought when Ragnarok rolled around and I watched Ragnarok, I was like, oh, Korg, he's kind of funny. And like I think the context you find him in is kind of funny in Ragnarok. Like the thing about like the revolution, like and that he's this meek revolution leader. But then it's like now he's just like a guy that's there and he's not funny.
Dude, I think that's actually it. Because like in Endgame, we find him as Thor's basement gaming buddy, and that's funny. Like he needs to be in like some like really peculiar context first, and then we insert the character.
Sure.
I would argue that the issue here is that it's just oversaturation of Korg.
Yes, too much of him. Exactly. Facts.
If you watch Ragnarok, he's not in the movie that much.
Yeah.
He's in the pre-battle, and then after Thor gets his ass kicked by Hulk, Thor's with Hulk now, and he doesn't see Korg until quite a bit later. I can't.
Yeah, where Korg picks up Loki. Yeah.
Yeah. I think like literally like so much later, almost at the third act. So like, God, yeah, I hate Korg. I'm a certified Korg hater now. And then he's like gets his body back at the end. So like, why did you even make him a mask?
Yeah, well, because it's like you have the classic thing where like end of second act a character dies or like metaphorically dies, and that propels you into the third. And it's like you just even commit to it. Well, no, but it's like it's near that part, right?
No, that was the midpoint.
Is it?
Because if you think, yeah,
because they just arrived at
doesn't he like
Lipton City?
When
split it up into 4 segments, you've got up until Gorr attack, and then Omnipotent City is the first half of second act. Then they do Shadow Realm, and then they do the end.
Oh, I thought that he got fucked up at the Shadow Realm place. Okay,
no, he got killed by Zeus, bro.
Never mind that. Never mind.
Was that the 4 minutes that you were in the bathroom?
It actually was during the Shadow Realm part where I went to the bathroom.
Okay, well,
dude, but like this movie fake killed so many people. Like I thought Tessa Thompson's dead for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man, do you want to get into that now? Let's talk about
Let's do it. Let's talk about it.
Literally every single character except main Thor has a death or a death fake out, and only one is still dead at the very end of the movie. And it's so Gorr dies and stays dead again.
The Zeus one is funny.
Dies and comes back. Gorr dies and comes back. Valkyrie gets stabbed and it looks like maybe she could be dead. Does not die. Sif is loses her arm and comes back. Who am I missing? Is it just
Yeah, it's Jane.
Or-
Died for real.
the kid? The kid dies and comes.
Oh yeah!
yeah.
Jane dies. Just brought back in the post credits.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what? Death means nothing. There are
Yeah.
no stakes in this movie. Why am I watching?
Yeah.
Oh man, it makes me so bad.
Honestly though, the Zeus one is kind of weird, bro. He literally like
It's pointless.
lightning through his chest, man. Like, come on.
The omnipotent city stuff is like that's I think my biggest problem area of the movie in a movie that's terrible. Like, and I think that's the worst chunk, I think. And when we get there, I can get into why I think it's really bad. But
Wait, do we get any big cameos during Omnipotent City? Because I feel like that would be a perfect spot for cameos.
Russell Crowe.
Not
Russell
for,
Crowe was Zeus.
That's
wasn't
not a
he?
cameo. That's
Yeah, he's like a main character.
it's like a full role.
Yeah, but is he
No.
gonna be anything like going forward, or was he just like?
Well,
checking
True.
he's alive again, so
I guess so, yeah.
Thor 5. I don't know if we'll get there, but yeah, God, cameos. No, there's no like actor cameos, but I think there are a few like maybe like visual things where you might be like, oh, I know that character.
I mean, we see like two Eternals like looking in.
Celestials, but
Oh, Celestials, right?
get it right, Peter.
I haven't seen the movie. I don't know. I don't know about the lore.
No, it's literally just silly characters. There's
Oh,
no,
that's
no
sad.
famous actors. But yeah, let's go back to where we were, and then we'll get to Omnipotent City. I think we should just go through the movie. So I think we covered.
The next one should be the battle for New Asgard, right?
No, there's more. Let's start
There's
with
more?
cancer. So cancer is.
Oh yes. Yeah.
But not just any cancer, vague cancer. So we don't
Yeah.
know what kind of cancer. It could be anything, but we're not going to specify because we don't feel like it.
But it's stage 4.
But it's
know that.
stage 4.
Yeah.
But Jane doesn't know what stage 4 cancer is because she's like, it's only stage 4. How many stages are there? Oh my god! Dumbest scientists in a movie, maybe ever.
Yeah. Although I will say there was one. I don't know if I liked the beat in the scene when we first see her, but I appreciated that there was some attempt to like show characterization without just like having a conversation about it. But like when she's like really trying to explain like wormholes to the guy,
Mhm.
I was
Yeah.
like that was okay because I like that it shows like she's very desperate to like she's clinging on to this identity of the professor
Alright, yeah.
as she's dying, like, and so I like that there's a bit of characterization in that. I actually didn't mind this scene either, generally,
Really?
unless
I just feel like it's really weird for Darcy to show up. Like Darcy just been absent for the longest time. You know, she was in WandaVision, and then all of a sudden it's like, I'm back, sister.
But there's something. What happens after that? Because I am saying this, not remembering what happens directly after that conversation.
Yeah.
She went back to her lab and had a conversation with Eric Selvig. Yeah.
Got to get the whole old
Oh,
Thor
yeah.
team back together for a brief cameo.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, cancer is weird in this movie, and like, I saw one like article complaining about like how she just kind of falls into a trope. I guess she would be the one that's like, oh, I have cancer, it's not that serious, and it's like literally stage 4, and
Yeah.
then she's just trying to be like funny about it, but she won't.
Like my only problem with like this is like it's obvious that they're trying to use cancer as a gimmick, you know, like for the character.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they didn't really commit to it because if she's going through active chemo, she still has like, you know, a full head of hair. You know?
Yeah, that was goofy.
I don't know if it's all types of cancer. Like I literally I know nothing about it.
Well, if you're going through chemo, like your hair would just like fall out.
Okay, then yeah. Yeah, so weird. And then she kind of like gets like sidelined for most of the movie. You know what happens essentially? She's the same character she was in Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah.
It's mysterious illness with no kind of like cure, and then that makes Thor motivated to do things.
Yeah.
It's literally like she's not a better character than she was in that movie.
I disagree. I feel like at least her relation with Thor, like that part, I think it's much better handled.
I don't think so. I didn't feel any of it when we were doing. I don't know why. And this I think this is just me being dumb. But when they were showing like the flashbacks of her relationship with Thor, for a part of it, I was like, did this actually happen, or is he just like?
Well,
Like
these were all
I was
these
like,
were
is this
all
supposed to
extra
be?
scenes. I'm
Is
sure.
this supposed to be like an embellished version of reality? Like I straight up didn't grasp at first that was supposed to be what actually happened. Because I think in my head I was like, when did that happen? Like when did they do that within the Marvel timeline?
I think it's between Thor 2 and Age of Ultron. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Let's talk about that scene. I kind of the first time I found it fun and like kind of there's good points in there. I'd say
I didn't hate that part. Yeah, that general.
It's
part
just
I was
average. It's just okay. You know.
I'd say that. There's two different things that I like that he's got this issue with Jane that I mean, admittedly, was never mentioned in the first movies. Like he didn't seem to really
Exactly.
a new thing for him.
Yeah.
I don't love that it's essentially Doctor Strange's thing, where Doctor Strange is like from the first movie, I would say, has had a problem with like his love life. Like he can't like get close to people, right? Like he has that problem with Rachel McAdams, whatever her character's name is, and then in the second movie, like he's still like sort of trying to like work through that, and then Thor just kind of like gets it, like in this flashback moment. Yeah. But I mean, like the gags were funny. I liked Thor in a hot dog costume and Mjolnir pulling them.
Oh, the gag on the rollerblades was one of the funniest parts of the movie. That was actually a funny gag.
It was good, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, but going forward, when Jane has her revelation that Mjolnir might help her.
Yeah.
That sequence was too random, man.
That was so, I thought it was really lame how they didn't show her transformation because they filmed it. They did film it, and like there's no like we know that that's what happened, so it's like it's not like when she grabs the hammer in the later scene. That's not a reveal, like because it's only a reveal for Thor, which is fine, but it's not a reveal for us. So why are you trying to shroud it in mystery before we get there? You know,
literally showed it in the trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, they make it seem like Jane has been Thor for like a little bit, like the way Valkyrie talks about her. So that's kind of weird. The fact that like there's this weird time jump that like isn't accounted for.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be very like surprised at like the timeline of this movie, like if someone wrote it out, because there seems to be like large blocks of time that are missing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't understand why she's like in the again going back to the source material, these are two completely different storylines that have been pushed together into one, admittedly like short for like a blockbuster movie. It's only 2 hours or like just under.
Yeah, it's just 2 hours.
They try to combine Gorr's storyline, which is what did I say, like 10
issues.
It might be more. I could be wrong, like it could be much more. And then they also try to combine the Thor Jane Foster as Thor thing, and it doesn't work. Yeah, so when she shows up in the comic book for the first time, Thor is unworthy, which is an actually like really interesting thing that they have never done in this movie. Well, since the first Thor, I guess, whatever. But I don't understand why when they bring Thor and Mjolnir back specifically, why is Thor still worthy? Like, it's such a wasted opportunity, and it makes me mad. But yeah, when Jane first appears as Thor, she's masked, and we the readers don't know who she is either. Like there is that element of mystery, and we don't find out till the last issue of that first comic with Jane as Thor who it is. Didn't need to happen here because we knew from the get-go.
Yeah, I wonder, how do you guys think, because I haven't thought about this till now, if they actually did put off Natalie Portman even being in the movie until that scene? Like, do you think there's a possibility they can make that work? I haven't thought about this at all.
That's interesting.
And then fill in the backstory then, like what happened. That would be cool, actually, because like, while I'm really happy the film did this, but like, I was really confused when like Natalie Portman was able to pick up the hammer, or like even to see like sparks forming, around Mjolnir's broken thing. Like, why wasn't Thor able to do that? But I'm glad they sort of explained it. It's like, oh, Mjolnir, please promise me protect her. And then it's strong enough. Apparently, it's magical. So it's like, cool.
Yeah. The only thing I see about that, so Peter, you're talking about the enchantment that allows Jane to pick up the hammer. That's actually a magic loophole because we don't want to admit that Jane Foster could be worthy for whatever reason. I don't know why, but like literally, why couldn't she just be worthy of the hammer?
Or that would be much more natural, I feel like.
Just feels like a cop out. Like they're like, oh, we don't want to make her, which is so weird when they're trying to be like all about representation these days, and then they're like, yeah, but she's not technically worthy of the hammer. What?
Yeah.
Why do you care?
Yeah. Like, if you're going to go out of your way to make a magical loophole that doesn't really make sense, then it's like, yeah, I agree. Yeah.
You know what? They should have started the movie with this recap instead of. So do Gorr, then do the Jane Thor love recap, because I don't care about the other bit. Then do Thor with the Guardians digging around. Honestly, it would have been fun if they were just in space. Like, I didn't need.
Dude, honestly, it would be better if this movie's a two-parter. Honestly, like 4 hours total or something.
Maybe did Taika get to direct this hypothetical version? I couldn't handle more than one of these movies. God, and I guess they kind of do this in this movie. The Guardians battle, they're like investigating something that's Gorr related, but it's so unclear because it's like a throwaway line, and if you don't hear it right, like you miss it.
Yeah.
But they say that the gods have left the temple or whatever, and so that's why the chicken Muppets have taken it over because the gods are missing. And then they're kind of like, wait a minute, there's lots of gods missing.
Dude, again, like such a cool concept. All the power vacuums left open. Yeah. And Marvel just decided to explore it. It was like, space chickens!
Yes. That was one of my other big problems with the movie is how unexplored the concept of gods is in this movie, despite how big of a deal it is in this movie.
Yeah.
Dude, Alex, do you remember at the end of Moon Knight, we're all like, yo, Gorr's gonna show up and kill the Pantheon.
It was my Mephisto moment. I was like, oh, yo, Gorr's gonna kill Khonshu or something. No, it was Khonshu is in the statue. Spoilers for...
oh, so he's saved. Yeah, that's what you said. Yeah, right.
Whatever. Not surprising that didn't happen. But yeah, I hate so much that the god butchering is relegated to the distress call when it's like swiping through images like he's on like dead god Tinder, and that's all we get. We saw one god die, Rapu, friggin' Rapu, and we hated Rapu. Did she kill any other ones that we see? Like there's a big guy that we don't know. Like, I don't care.
Dude, when I saw that scene in the trailer, I was like, yo, that's gonna be sick. Like, it's gonna be like a Thor going on an adventure. It's like going to different worlds, seeing the destructions left behind Gorr's wake, and then trying to hunt him down. It's almost like, playing detective. But it's just like, hey, they're dead now. Figure it out.
Detective Thor would have been something interesting. I would have liked that.
Yeah.
Him trying. But yeah,
dude, we gotta talk about the new Asgard battle scene. That scene.
Just really quick though, should we talk about goats though, really quick?
Yeah, sure.
More goats. Let's do it.
Hey, fuck the goats. Not funny at all. When they came in, I was like, no.
I'm glad they didn't make it to like the very end. They were gone by the time, I guess, what is that? Split between Act 2 and 3. So.
Yeah, I think as soon as they landed on the Shadow Realm, that's the last time we saw the goats.
Okay, yeah.
No, they make it home. They're safe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
so they tap out after Act 2.
Yeah. Along with most everyone else, but we'll get to that. Yeah, those goats I hated. I hated the goats.
Yeah.
Fuck them goats, man. All my homies hate the goats.
Yeah. Fuck the goats.
While we're kind of like in this zone in the timeline here, Peter, you did bring this up briefly. Thor gets his best costume in the entire MCU for about 2 scenes before changing into the biggest eyesore in the MCU. The
Dude, it's just like
blue costume.
Dude, I don't know how they fucked it up that badly, bro.
I don't even remember it.
It's really cool. It's like a black leather with some fur on the top.
Oh yeah, that was sick. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
It's a toy thing. It's a toy thing. They
Yeah.
wanted to make more toys, so he's got to have costume changes. Same thing happened in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He's randomly changing his costume like multiple times throughout the movie for really weak reason. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why do we need to do this? I liked movies back when they had one costume or like one costume change.
Yeah.
Like,
Or when there was a costume change, it's like, oh, it's like actually a big deal.
oh shit! Oh yeah. No, and it was such a nice costume, and then they get rid of it. And kind of around this time, we also meet up with Lady Sif, who is in this movie for some reason.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I totally thought she got killed off by Hela, because like all the other gangs like did.
There was a conflict, a scheduling conflict. So.
Oh, so she was saved by that.
Yeah, she was saved by what show? She was in a show, and I'm sure it was the show that she was in, where she has a bunch of tattoos. I don't know what that is, but
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the only reason she didn't die there, and now she's just missing an arm.
Yeah. No, I think it would have been a lot more interesting if they just had a period where Thor is investigating these, like, he's following the trail of destruction a little bit, and then, like, maybe we see a little bit too. That would be nice to see some of this destruction.
I would like to see some
some of the god butchering, and then like Sif doesn't even need to be it. Like, what if he just finds out another way that he's going to attack New Asgard or whatever? Or he's coming after Thor. Like, I don't know, figure something else out. Like, it's just
Because I felt like I remember calling back to Infinity War. Thanos technically destroyed Nova, right? And like a lot of people wanted to see like the actual destruction of Nova. But I'm actually fine with that because there are enough moments in the movie where Thanos is being a badass and using his powers. But in this movie, Gorr, like, we don't really see Gorr being a badass. Like, we just see Gorr being creepy. Yeah.
That's one of my big problems. Are we at the point where we're going into the New Asgard fight scene?
Let's do it.
We're so close, guys. One more thing. The play scene. Just I want to get through all these things.
Dude, Chris Pine! I did not know. Chris Pine was not in the play, right? Chris Pine was like the director or something.
Chris Pine? What are you talking about?
Chris Pine? I kid you not, Chris Pine was in this movie.
No, it's not. It's Liam Hemsworth.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He just looks like Chris Pine? Wait, hold up.
You're talking about after the attack when they're out of costume, right? It's not.
Hold
it's
up.
The actors. It's Matt Damon and Liam Hemsworth. Matt Damon's Loki. Liam Hemsworth is Thor, because it's the joke. They're brothers. Thor Hemsworth.
Oh my god. Is that actually not Chris Pine? I was so excited in the theater.
Yeah, and the stage manager is Melissa McCarthy's husband, because Melissa McCarthy is Hela. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like when I saw that scene. I was like, okay, whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, fine. That was a scene where I was legitimately like, other people will think this is funny. This is fine.
I agree.
I'm not too upset about this. Whatever. Yeah. It didn't linger too long for me. I was like, I don't like this, but I don't really care. I'm fine with it being here.
I think it was really funny in Ragnarok, and it was not funny here. You know, just one of those things where it's like, you know, you're doing the joke for the second time, and it's like,
and it's like it's elevated here though because there's more cameos this time.
Oh yeah. Thanks, Melissa McCarthy. Yeah. Also, I read this somewhere. Someone pointed out like the play. So you're telling me the play is just Odin dying and the hammer breaking, and then you're just gonna like end on that cliffhanger? Like,
yeah. Dude, I love how the audience all claps. It's like someone started crying. It's like, bro, seriously?
Oh, yeah, and on that same point, the fact that I read like they have like infinity cones in New Asgard. It's like that like
That's in
that's
poor
like
taste.
a genocidal event in this universe. Like
Yeah.
that's that's really they wouldn't have that, I don't think.
We don't have Hitler themed ice cream
Right,
trucks.
that's what I was
I
gonna say.
know. Yeah, it's another just weird choice that just it's it's funny if you're like the creator and you're like, oh, this is silly, but like when you look at it from like the perspective of like the Marvel universe, it's like that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a moment you've all been waiting for. Who wants to talk first about Gorr's attack on New Asgard?
I just want to say that's my like least favorite, but also favorite fight scene in the movie. Least favorite because you actually brought it up.
Yeah.
Thank you for telling me this, Alex. So they were using the volume thing, like the
Oh,
whole virtual
yeah,
stage
yeah.
thing, and it was so fucking obvious, man. Like the depth perception is just
Yes,
completely out of whack.
dude, I was thinking about that literally today. I was like, yeah, one of the problems with the visuals in this movie, it reminded me of the Obi-Wan show where it felt super claustrophobic and it felt like there was like they were just in a tiny room. I didn't know they used the volume. Okay,
It's the exact same tech.
that explains a lot of this. Okay, that explains that. Okay.
Yeah. The issue is they. I don't remember who I was telling this to, but when they first used the volume in Mando and the Batman, they're using a DP who I think was like involved in the creation or like at least he knew what he was doing. Like Greg
Yeah.
Fraser was working with it.
Uh-huh.
And the trick is you have to light the characters the same way the background is lit.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can tell that they were not filmed at the same time. Like there's a person and then there's a green screen or whatever, the real computer screen.
Yeah.
And clearly they just did not figure out the lighting for this. It just looks bad. But Gorr's attack in general.
Bad. Yeah, so I have a lot of problems with this scene. I think this scene is terrible. I think it's really,
I agree,
really bad.
but I can't pinpoint exactly why. Can you like?
So one of the big problems for me is that we were talking about how there are no stakes in this movie. One of the problems with that, we don't see Gorr do any god butchering, and then when he comes
Agreed.
when he comes and fights at New Asgard, he like doesn't really win. And it's like, yes, he takes the
Yeah.
kids at the end, but he doesn't like kick Thor's ass. He doesn't really give them a run for their money in the fight itself. And so when the kids are kidnapped, this is like one of my biggest script problems in the movie. When the kids are kidnapped, there is no reason why they can't just go and get the kids right
That's
away.
true.
Why they can't just
Yeah.
go right after them. They have to invent a dumbass reason in the script. And you know how I know that there's no reason that they need this whole gang to go attack Gorr? Because twice more in the movie, they go and attack Gorr without recruiting anyone. Like they do it 2 more times after that point. And so the scene doesn't like Gorr is not established as a threat whatsoever.
Yeah, Gorr doesn't feel dangerous at all. Yeah.
And I think it also matters that it's like it's these dark characters at night in the volume and it's
Looks
like
so
visually yeah. But yeah, and I was gonna say like sorry for rambling more, but I was gonna say I wouldn't have even had the kids kidnapped because another problem is why do we think Gorr would kill these kids? His main motivation is that his daughter died. Why would he just kill a bunch of children? Like there was no like threat to that. And so like what I think should have happened in this scene is Gorr like kicks their ass and like practically destroys New Asgard and they have to flee and then they like run to the God City or whatever. Like cuz they think they might get help there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Good point.
absolutely agree. The reason he kidnaps the kids, twofold. One, it's a kids movie, so we gotta have kids.
Yeah.
And two, he doesn't pose a threat in any other capacity.
Yeah.
He's not threatening because he doesn't kill any gods. So
Yeah.
it's like, why should I care about this character? And so then they're like, well, we can't kill any gods because I don't know, we might use them in the future. Like, can't kill off the valuable IP. I don't know, but it's or maybe it's the fact that they're trying to cater a PG-13 movie to children, which doesn't make any sense. So they don't want to show it. I don't know, but yeah, I agree that the whole attack, like the attack starts and it's super like it's a weird start to the battle. Like I think we get the idea an attack is about to happen, and then by the time we're
Thor
back,
gets there.
maybe something happens between, and then we come back and the attack is already underway. And it's
Yeah.
like, I'm missing something, and then it just kind of like happens. And I agree, there's no stakes, and it's filmed weird, and monsters are like kind of like hard to define. Like,
Is that even comic book accurate? The shadow creature thing?
unfortunately, they kind of are.
Oh.
It did make a slight change in that the Necrosword is actually made of like Venom, like the Spider-Man character, and of course they're never going to do that based on like the weird Sony thing. And I would say they kind of already did the Necrosword with Hela's thing. Having read the comic now, I do acknowledge that he does create like monsters a lot. So that's so yeah, it's on brand for Gorr to have like created these kind of like shadow creatures, but they did kind of have to change, like, well, it's not goo this time, it's shadows, which looks terrible. And then Jane shows up mid-battle with her fancy hammer that can blow apart into like.
Okay, honestly though, I just have to say, despite all this like hate for that scene, this movie has some of the best Thor battle scenes. I genuinely enjoyed almost every single battle scenes that they have. Like the tech that they use and some of the shots that they did with Jane and her hammer, fabulous, bro. Like the one shot I think a lot of people were talking about it was like you see like how the hammer, and then she launches the shrapnels, and then you see like each shrapnel like launches through the horde. That scene, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I really like some of the things that they did.
I'm not with you there. I think that like the best Thor action is in probably like the Russo movies.
Oh yeah. I mean, nothing beats the Battle for Wakanda. I guess that one was really fantastic.
No, I hated the action in this movie, to be honest with you. Like, I don't think I couldn't like describe to you like any of the action parts of the action scene. I could just tell you like generally what happens in relation to the movie, and I think that's a bad sign.
Okay, I'm gonna give a hot take here, but I think, among other things, I think one of Taika's big weaknesses as a director. Ignore that. Sorry. One of his big weaknesses as a director is he cannot film fight scenes for the life of him. If you go back and watch Ragnarok, the fight scenes are terrible. They're so bad. One that comes to mind as possibly one of the worst things I've ever seen is when Hela takes over Asgard. It's literally like a CGI Kate Blanchett just like flipping and like using swords and like running around, and it looks so bad. There's no style to it.
Dude, but that gets me because because they did sort of a similar thing when they were fighting Zeus on Omnipotent City. It was just like shit exploding, Jane splitting her hammer, and a bunch of explosion, people flipping around. I really liked that for some reason.
Dude, my brain straight up like turned off. When that started happening on Omnipotent City, I was like, okay, this is gonna be happening for a couple minutes. I'm just gonna stop paying attention. I'll start paying attention when like the plot is going again.
And it never starts going again.
I think it's like maybe it's like a lack of just like realism or stakes even. You know, okay, like there's like these scary guards, but they're not scary guards. They're paper. They're made of paper, and you can kill them, and then they'll blow up in gold dust, and like it's immediate. And if any of these like monsters or guards like put up an actual like fight, like
I agree.
Care, but most of the fight scenes that Taika does are just like endless amounts of enemies that you hit them and they're dead. Like, I don't know.
Same thing at the end of Ragnarok,
While we're on this fight scene, one of the most important new characters is introduced. Jane's helmet, which is, I think, possibly the worst part of this movie. Oh, and Thor's helmet.
You mean Thor's helmet?
Both get helmets. They're both bad. They're both like the volume isn't great. It gives it a weird quality, but while watching the movie, the only thing that I was like, "Oh, that's really bad," are the helmets. And I saw it in the trailers, and I knew I was gonna hate them, and I still do.
Yeah.
They were clearly like a last minute addition, and they're so bad. I cannot get over how awful they look.
Yeah, it's not good. It's bad stuff. Oh, I had
And
one more. I was just gonna say, is there a universe? Actually, you should go first. What were you gonna say?
just like so Jane puts on the helmet for no reason. There's no reason she needs to put on the helmet. She's trying to hide it from Thor. Okay, but then why doesn't she hide it from Thor?
Yeah,
Because she takes it off 2 seconds later. That would have been an actually interesting dynamic if Thor didn't know who Jane was or who the new Thor was, and he was like,
yeah,
"Who is this person?" And then he discovers it's Jane, and he's got like a crush on her, and then he's like, "Oh my god, it's Jane." That's interesting, and they
yeah,
do that in the comic, and they don't do it here.
yeah.
And then for like no reason, Thor puts on a helmet after he sees Jane wearing the helmet.
That's the worst helmet I've ever
Yeah.
seen, man.
He looks like Hawkman,
Dude, like, what's up with these?
Yeah,
like a beak. He's got a beak for some reason. I don't,
yeah,
or like on his nose, it's like sharp. Oh, that's so weird. And
yeah.
then later in on Omnipotence City, that's hard to say. They're talking, they're having a discussion, and then in the middle of the discussion, Jane puts the helmet on, like it forms around her, and there's no reason why she needs to do that. I have zero clue because like almost immediately after when they put on the disguises, the helmet's gone again.
Yeah.
They're just like I need someone to explain it to me why they did it because it looks so bad.
Yeah.
Oh man, I hate it so much. Okay.
I was just gonna say, yeah. Is there a version of this film where Gorr cannot do the shadow monsters at all, and he just pulls up by himself and like fucks it up anyway, and like beats them?
That'd be
really bad?
lovely.
Doesn't that
Yeah,
make
if
it a
you
lot
don't
more
show God
threatening?
killing, at least show that.
Because then like that establishes like he by himself is very threatening instead of these like CGI shadows. You know what I mean?
100%.
That's
Agreed.
the thing. He's not threatening. He's Christian Bale. And we know that Christian Bale can get pretty buff and scary, but they chose not to go that route. And he's going up against Thor, who is the buffest he's ever been for a Thor movie. Like, there's no chance.
Thing is, I actually thought the character design was fine. I actually liked the way Gorr looked, but I was like, because you can say that he just because of the sword or whatever is strong and can fight. You know what I mean? But just show him doing that.
Yeah.
And show him doing it
Agreed.
well.
Yeah.
I don't know if I loved Gorr's sundress or like
Yeah, the Alex sent me an early concept piece that they did for Gorr. Much better.
Oh,
well, it just looks more like he's supposed to look in the comics. It's
Yeah.
one thing is he's kind of like in like loincloth territory in the comics, or like maybe more like Speedo, like made of the Venom goo or whatever. So
Yeah.
I can see how like at Christian Bale's age, like he might not feel the want to do that. Also, like he said, like he did this movie for his children, so that's kind of like a weird thing. He's the in a Speedo. I also know that he's supposed to be kind of like a mix between Voldemort and those Twi'leks from Star Wars. So he's got like the tails, the head tails, and no nose. Looks so much more threatening. Oh, and like pointy teeth. So much more threatening in the comics, and then he just looks like a dude.
Yeah, pretty much. With black teeth.
Pale.
Yeah.
He needs to get more sun. Okay, so then battle wraps up. Things happen, and and then there's that town hall meeting. And Thor's jealous, and
honestly though, I would say just one thing quickly. One joke that did work for me is the rivalry between Stormbreaker and
I was just leading into
and Mjolnir. That was fun. You know, it was subtle. It was good, tasteful. And
I actually liked the way they shot some of that too, where it would be like a single of Thor, and then you just see the thing.
Yeah, slowly.
That was fun. I liked the way they shot it too.
That's the thing. The first time they do the joke didn't land for me. When he's in the town hall and he's trying to like force Mjolnir, like with the force hand,
Yeah.
and then Stormbreaker comes, because it's just the shot they used didn't work, but the second time was hilarious and probably the best joke in the whole movie,
Yeah.
when it's that, like what you said, the single kind of like medium close up of Thor. And I think it's the fact that he comes from out of the frame instead of like out of like the middle of a bunch of people. It's out of the from the side of the frame, and it creeps in so slowly. It's perfect. That is like, that's film comedy.
Yeah.
That's the difference between like what lands and what doesn't for the most part in these movies, is when they're trying to like say funny words, like it doesn't work. But when something that's like what would you call it, like based around the comedy of like situational comedy, I guess, or like something that's like from how they filmed it.
Yeah.
I don't know. One of the best jokes for me in Thor Ragnarok is they're like, okay, Loki, where did you put Odin? And then it's a hard cut to the Shady Acres home that's been demolished.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
funny. They're using film language for comedy.
Yeah, because that's like that's a classic part of film comedy language. Like I always think of in Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade, there's like a part where it's like a slow push in on Indiana Jones, and he's talking about his like colleague, and he's like, "You'll never find him. He speaks 5 languages. He's been across the globe." And and then it's a hard cut to the guy just in the middle of a crowd of having no idea where he is, and it's so funny. Like it's just that's an essential part of like film comedy language that this movie just generally lacked for all the jokes it tried.
I mean, that's what happens when you don't have rewrites on your script, and it's literally just like, well, we're gonna have to improvise it so that it's purely dialogue. That's the funny bits. But yeah, the hammers, that was really funny. I think. Let's talk about the hammers actually. Like, it's kind of like whenever I try to think about it, it gives me a headache. It's like, so he's jealous of Mjolnir, and then Stormbreaker's jealous of him. So there's kind of like a weird like love square between the hammers and Jane and Thor, which is weird. And then I think all of that is perfectly fine until the very end, when what hammer does Thor get?
Yeah, like why does he have Mjolnir back again?
Does he have Mjolnir back? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It makes me so mad.
Dude, it's just like a small kid holding a big battle axe and him holding a tiny ass hammer.
The hammer is clearly one she's more interested in because she's drawn on it. Why doesn't she get the Mjolnir? I think the movie is trying to be about learning to let go, right? So you have love, and sometimes it doesn't work out, or sometimes death happens and you have to let go and not go into hate. So then that kind of like makes sense with Jane, and it makes sense with Gorr's story. But then if you add the hammers into it, then suddenly we're like, oh, fuck that noise, we're gonna give Thor his hammer back by the end of this thing. What are you doing? Why are you doing this, guys?
But yeah, I mean, like, I already touched on this a little bit. Like, one of my biggest problems is that this movie, like, it presents no good reason why Thor and co cannot just go get the kids immediately, and why they can't just go and do it. And it's like they have like a scene of dialogue where it's just like, no, we can't do that. He'll be too powerful. But we didn't see him be powerful, and so it's like, yeah, I guess I'll take your word for it. And so then they have to go to the God City, and it's just like, okay, like it's a side quest that they have to just randomly do in the middle of the movie.
It is a side quest. I think I saw someone say, like, on Twitter, it was like movies where they don't have a second act, they just go to a different location. And I can't remember which movies they talked about, but it feels like that's what this was.
Yeah.
There's no like the second act is like, you know, training to beat the bad guy, like trying things and failing. And there's just like none of that. Like, so yeah, let's talk about Omnipotent City.
Terrible. I think my least favorite part of the entire movie.
It looks so bad.
Looks like shit. We're also in 2 different locations we're on this walkway. It's this Omnipotent City is this very new concept in the MCU. the concept of gods, we're trying to explore that a little bit more. We have this new city, this fascinating new world. We just get a boring conversation on a walkway, and then we're in this coliseum. And that those are the only two places we're in. Like, explore the place a little bit. Like, let's meet a few different people and go around a bit. And it's like, also one of the biggest parts, like, why it's the perfect setup for Gorr to attack them there.
Right?
It's like,
Whoa, yeah.
why would they not do that? Like, it's like, it's so great because it feels so disjointed. That would make it feel so much less disjointed if he just attacked them there. Like, so, like, in my version of it, where the kids aren't kidnapped and they just flee to the city, Gorr just follows them there. Boom. Like, you know what I'm.
I think the fact that Gorr doesn't attack Omnipotent City is probably the most confounding part of this entire movie.
Yeah.
Like there's all the other things that I've said like I hate, but I think that is the single most baffling decision.
Yeah.
It's so perfectly set up and then they don't use it.
Dude, I remember when the first trailer dropped and we saw Zeus, and then all like the big content creators on YouTube were just like, "Yep, he's probably gonna die. You know, Gorr's gonna kill him. You know, to show how powerful Gorr is." No, nothing.
Yeah.
We thought Gorr was
Nothing happened.
we thought Gorr was going to kill him, but it ended up being Thor after Korg was killed by Zeus, and I feel like Thor has killed almost as many gods as Gorr has. Like that's kind of like the threat level we're establishing.
Yeah.
Like they're not much different. Yeah, I hated Omnipotent City, and then Zeus. Let's talk about Zeus. That
Man,
was
okay, wait. Just one more point about Thor. I just thought about it. This is Thor's first appearance after Endgame,
Mhm.
right? And like Endgame's supposed to be like this defining moment for Thor, because like he's finally defeated this demon that's been haunting him for so long because he failed to stop Thanos the first time.
But let's be clear that wasn't enough. Remember Endgame, he does what he thinks he needs to get better. He kills
Yeah,
them
exactly.
immediately, and it doesn't work. That's not what makes him feel better because he becomes the dude from The Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
He stumbles into like depression because that's not what he needed, right?
Yeah.
Like all I'm saying is like after such a brilliant character arc, and then like supposedly like Thor finally reconciling with like his past demons, and now we get this. Is it hilarious? Like how the discrepancy between the movies, how big they are.
Yeah, I get how he's like redefining himself after kind of like depression, and I think there were other reasons, but I couldn't name what they were. I mean, he's lost a lot of people, but yeah, I guess okay, maybe he's getting over that, and so he needs a new identity. Oh, and yeah, I guess in Endgame he passed kingship onto Valkyrie. Not that we see much of that either.
Yeah.
Valkyrie's like just some woman in Camp Asgard. Like she doesn't seem like she's king. She doesn't do anything kingly.
I agree. I did like though that she wasn't like in like an ornate costume necessarily. Like I liked that it was kind of her version, and she was just kind of like she had like community meetings. It didn't feel like it was in like a palace or something. I actually liked that detail. That it felt like it was a smaller community that she was a part of it rather than being
100%.
like an elite.
Okay.
I thought that was a good choice.
It's like Asgard but adapted to fit Earth.
Okay,
setting.
I agree, and I think that's a good point that we're learning from the mistakes of old Asgard. In like it was a what would you call that? Like a monarchy, right? And Odin was probably not the best ruler, which they kind of like touch on that in Ragnarok. How he was like, what's the word? Like imperialist.
A war criminal,
War criminal. But again, I feel like if she was the leader of New Asgard, she should have been more of a leader. There was that Old Spice commercial thing she does.
Yeah, that was kind of funny actually. I like that.
The point of that. I didn't get what the point of that. Why would she be doing that? I was like, what the fuck?
Her kingly duties aren't kingly, and like even if she's not like the ornate king, I still think we should have better established that she is the leader of the community because it never feels that way.
Yeah.
We're just like, oh, I'm the leader still, even though he's not.
Yeah,
is the whole point. Yeah. Actually, speaking of that community center, that's the first time we meet. Not the first time, but the first time we actually like recognize this character, Axel.
Oh,
Oh,
or
Handel's kid.
Heimdall's son
Yeah.
or
Son.
daughter. I don't remember.
That's the thing. So we'll cover that bit later, but like I think they're either maybe non-binary or trans, but they don't really
Oh,
want
okay.
to like confirm it. So all they say is
Yeah.
Thor goes, "Hey, look, it's Astrid, a character that I know that you've never heard of."
Yeah.
He's like, "I know this kid," and then Axel goes, "It's not Astrid anymore. It's Axel."
Oh,
And
right.
then
Yeah.
Thor starts dead naming him, and is like, "No, Astrid's a pretty good name."
Yeah.
And then we're like, "No, Thor, getting in the 21st century. We're cool. We're hip now.
Yeah.
Don't be a bigot." And then we're like, okay. Um, yeah, and he first appears as like a ghost head. That was
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
That looks. That was another time when the CGI was not great.
Oh, yeah. 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 I completely forgot about that beat. To be honest, like I just yeah. No, yeah. I think like I don't know. I felt like the movie because I feel like in press they were like, oh, we have like queer representation in this movie, and then I
You want to
felt
get
like
into that?
we
They
can
say
talk
this
about it a little.
movie.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I'll preface this by saying like I as a straight cis guy, not the best guy, not the best judge, but I'll just like say briefly like I just feel like they won't commit to anything, and they won't just like say like they won't like show characters being gay. Like they can like talk about it a little bit, or they can have like a scene where they're like, "Yeah, I had an orgy one time," and but it's like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like they shy away from it a lot. They don't have to, but I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think you're completely like right on this. Like it's Disney's version of representation where they
Yeah,
make references to it that if you are a small child and don't know these things, you're like, well, I don't know what's happening.
yeah,
Um, and it's some people have been describing it as like the easily cuttable scenes for Saudi Arabia.
yeah.
Um, does China still allow it? I don't
I
Hmm?
don't.
remember.
I know that China has made movies cut things, but I don't know.
The gay things, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, what you were referring to was there was a screening, I think, and someone asked someone from the audience asked what's her name?
Natalie Portman.
Natalie, thank you.
Yeah.
Natalie Portman, how gay the movie is, which is already like how many ways can you answer that question?
Yeah.
And I've been told that Ragnarok is kind of like, for whatever reason, a movie that queer people like. I don't know why. Like what part of that feels queer to them? Beats me, but so I can see why they would want this one to continue being that for them.
Yeah.
And then so Natalie Portman, facing this challenging question, goes. I think she says, "Oh, so gay." Unconvincing voice, and then Taika takes over, kind of like the showman he is, and he goes, "Oh, it's super gay," in his like
Yeah.
accent, but it's not. It's
No. Yeah.
it's more gay than any Marvel movie has been.
Yeah, like
Probably.
I remember, was it Endgame where, or am I thinking of Star Wars where they're like, we showed the first on-screen gay kiss or whatever in the
They've
MCU,
been doing
and it was
that
like,
for
what?
years.
What are you like? And like, I literally like you blink and you miss it, like it was nothing.
The
Yeah.
kiss was Star Wars. The ninth one, there's like
Oh
a
yeah,
lesbian kiss in the background.
yeah, yeah,
Like, we've had Disney's first openly gay character for like 5 years or
yeah,
more.
yeah,
More, I think it's more now. There's so many of them.
yeah,
Kind of a team up movie where they can
yeah,
all be first and openly gay.
yeah.
Um, God, but yeah. I mean, I guess this tops. What is it? Joe Russo showing up as the gay man at the beginning
Oh, is
scene
that
of
what I'm thinking
Endgame.
of for Endgame?
That's Endgame.
Okay.
He just mentions he has a husband and that's it.
Oh,
And I was like,
okay.
okay, that was enough. And then they did America Chavez's mom's.
Oh
Right. Yeah, they did that.
Yeah, it's pretty weak.
Yeah.
Not great. But yeah, and then Axel just okay. I think I have to talk about it here. This movie is trying so hard to be Ragnarok 2
Yeah.
that it does not find its own identity. The movies are so similar, and that's why Axel being in this movie is kind of like the cherry on top. Like it literally does not matter. Like this character in this children's side plot is so random.
Just to be the
It's like
Heimdall of
tacked into
it.
this movie, but it completely mirrors what Heimdall is doing in
Yeah.
Ragnarok, right?
Right. Yeah.
Heimdall is
Totally.
the only reason Thor knows about what the villain is doing because
Yeah.
he's still on Asgard protecting the people, and Thor is off on Sakaar. Here, it's Thor's in Omnipotent City. He has no idea what's going on with Gorr. Axel serves the exact same function, and the Hela and Gorr are so similar. They don't do anything. They're reactive villains instead of being
Yeah.
proactive. At the play scene, you've got the best part of the movie, Zeus. I say that with a heavy dose of sarcasm. Zeus is the same as Grandmaster.
Mhm.
It's Ragnarok too.
But-
Like they were
Oh my God, you're absolutely right.
But I liked Grandmaster. I think I just liked Jeff Goldblum a lot.
Jeff Goldblum is so funny though.
Yeah.
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 Let's
but
talk
yeah,
about
Zeus. Yeah, man. Like this is a prime example of this movie like shooting itself in the foot with comedy to me, where it's like Zeus has to feel like threatening. Like he has to feel like a god. You know what I mean? Like he can't just be like this like guy who's like kind of just like Russell Crowe after a couple shots just pulling it off, like, you know what I mean?
yeah. He's trying to be. I think he's supposed to be like the example for why Gorr is right, but we never really want
Yeah.
to reckon with the even slightest possibility that Gorr could be right. So,
Yeah.
although he's the example, and if you think about it, you're like, yeah, maybe Gorr is right. They never actually contend with that issue.
Yes, I agree. That's
You
one of my
know?
big problems with this movie too.
I think they should have had more gods that prove that Gorr could be right, and maybe even some gods that where Gorr was in the wrong. I think would have been fine, or like
Yeah.
actually like
Yeah.
telling. But yeah, Zeus is just so friggin' weird in his accent. The,
Oh yeah.
the Greek. Or,
Dude, dude, my favorite line of this entire movie. I remove your disguise.
These guys.
Oh my God, that was.
I think
it's
what could have been interesting, and I wrote down like, what if like Gorr saw Thor kill Zeus too? Like I don't know, that adds like an interesting fold into the dynamic as well. That it's like Thor is also
Totally.
kind of fed up, and I don't know where you go from there necessarily, but it's like it's something. You know what I mean?
yeah. No, I like that. That's good. And instead we get I remove your disguise. And he's just like just twirling with the thunderbolt thing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the thunderbolt while we're at it. This whole movie actually is just MacGuffin City,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
Thunderbolts,
Stormbreaker.
Stormbreaker,
Yeah.
and Eternity. It's like, come on, like the Book of Vishanti was a lot in Doctor Strange, but now you've got three.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, is the Eternity thing comic book accurate, by the way? Like, is there actually like some being in the universe that you can make a wish to, and then he will
Oh
grant?
no, it's not a genie. It's
Yeah.
Eternity is a character, but I think it's one of those like staples of the universe kind of things. Like it's
Mhm.
like the Living Tribunal kind of thing where they're more like an observer, almost like Uatu. But as far as I know, there's no like history of them being a genie that solves your
Yeah.
problems.
It's
I
also
think-
like, sorry, if that exists, like, why doesn't Thanos or
Exactly right. Like, I hate how he retcons previous movies.
Yeah.
Just absolutely ridiculous.
And it's I think there's just a general like screenwriting thing. If your movie has a thing that can solve all your problems, you need a rewrite. So
Yeah.
Book of Vishanti, the book like literally they describe it as like the book that has all the answers.
Yeah.
Eternity, the book that or the thing that'll grant a wish. Yeah, it's lazy.
Yeah, and I think my biggest problem with the turn with Omnipotent City like factors into my biggest problem with the movie, and we've touched on this, that it wastes so much time. So
Yeah.
little is accomplished in this chunk of the movie, but it's so much of the movie. Like what coming out of this, like what is like somewhat essential that happens? Korg gets turned into a head, and they get the lightning bolt, and Thor needs the lightning bolt later to teleport to the thing. And like,
I
Well, I
I
think
would
like part of it
it's
is
like
like
what else? What else does
part
this
of
scene
it
accomplish? Yeah.
part of it is just like, so I think it makes sense like what they're trying to do here, but like how they got there is just completely wrong. Because like Korg is killed off because Korg doesn't really have like sort of an unconventional weapon like Thor and the Mighty Thor. Like he doesn't have the hammers. He just used like conventional, like hammers, like regular hammers and like blasters. So and like same Valkyrie is sort of in that same boat. So we need to get some special weapon for Valkyrie. So Valkyrie gets a lightning bolt, which is like sure, but like how they got there is just completely a mess.
Yeah.
Thunderbolt is the most like inconsequential weapon in this movie. Like
Yeah.
literally,
Dude, anyone can use it. Like what?
it's something for us to do instead of any of the actual movie things we could do. It's
Mhm.
literally just like, well, we need something to drive the plot.
Yeah.
Literally, what a MacGuffin is. So
Yeah.
we'll go and find the Thunderbolt. We'll try and use the Thunderbolt and fail, and then it'll come back in the end. But it wasn't actually necessary to defeat Gorr in any way,
Yeah.
because all Thor does is he gives. Actually, this is confusing, and I've never heard about anyone talking about this. Thor gives the power of Thor to those kids
Yeah.
using the Thunderbolt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Zeus'
Yeah.
weapon.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he get, like the power of Zeus? Like,
Yeah. And it's also like, why? Oh, he can do that? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
man,
Yeah.
yeah.
Why not
I
just
sort
make
of
one
rode
of
with
the
it when I was
Avengers have
watching
the
it.
power of Thor? Like,
I
why not
rode
do
with
that?
it when I was watching it, but then like looking back, it's just like yeah, it's kind of ridiculous.
You think, giving the power of Thor would have been nice during like Infinity War?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think the Avengers would have been, a little bit better than the children.
Yeah.
with that. Right before they leave Omnipotent City, we get our, God, I don't know how many times they use this. Guns N' Roses plays for the upteenth time. How much was Guns N' Roses paying Marvel for their inclusion in this movie?
I think it's the reverse, right? Marvel pays
I
them
think
to include
Taika
their music.
Waititi just like really because like you're saying, it's the same thing as Ragnarok. How in Ragnarok they have what's the song with something Thousand Army?
Immigrant song, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The immigrant song.
But they do
It's
it
like
one time.
yeah. But yeah, no, and it's like this movie is just diluted Ragnarok. It's everything that was bad about Ragnarok worse. Like yeah.
I agree. Yeah, it is definitely like, okay, what's the Led Zeppelin of this? But they use, I think, 5 maybe Guns N' Roses songs. I also feel like they use one twice. Do they not
Yeah.
use Sweet
I
Child
think
of
they
Mine
did.
more than
I think
once?
you're right.
Which is like so weird. It's such a weird choice.
Yeah.
Really didn't like that. And then yeah, the kid's named Axel too, for whatever reason. And then we're in
Oh,
space.
I didn't even think about that until that. Yeah.
They do say they may. I wouldn't have known that either, but they do say something like, "Oh, it's named after this cool Earth band."
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. That's something I phased out of my mind, I guess.
Yeah. So then we're in space, and maybe no. This is I'm sure this is after the midpoint. This is our falling action, or no, I don't know. What do you
This is
call
the
it?
first time they go into Shadow Realm, right?
I think Save the Cat calls this the bad guys something. I don't know. So second half of second act. Yeah, we're approaching the.
We're in
the
Act
shadow.
2B for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're on that boat. And the Thors have their kind of like, well, it's been a while. Let's chat out, the B story. That's what this is. This is a B story moment where we're talking about love. We're ruminating about love.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but like I felt like there was nothing. There's no nuance, no interesting points about love. I kind of like the idea of like feeling shit, like, oh, I want to feel shitty about you. Like,
Yeah,
it's kind of like, that's a cute line.
Dude,
I
it's
agree.
kind of like, dude, that's like the whole Star Lord gimmick, though. Like Star Lord likes to use these, and now Thor uses them too. You know?
Oh, well, Star-Lord literally did tell him, I want to feel shitty about you. So it is a direct
Yeah.
from Star-Lord line.
True,
But
true.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with that. I agree that like the whole like love is like a big theme, and like you're right about like letting go and about how like love is worth trying for, even though it, you're putting yourself out there to like really be hurt and stuff. But I don't think it explores that in any interesting way, and it's like these are two characters that have gone through pretty remarkable experiences. Like I don't know, I feel like you could do something interesting with it, and it's just very standard. I agree that I didn't feel any chemistry. I didn't like enjoy watching it. I didn't care.
and here they kiss, and I'm like, why?
Yeah,
Why are you doing this? It doesn't feel like something that would naturally happen because they don't look like they love each other at all.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and then inside the boat, we have our two gay characters in there. This is okay. I'll talk about this now. It seems that Valkyrie likes Jane,
yeah.
maybe,
I got that vibe.
and that would have been so interesting. And of course, they can't do it because Disney and Saudi Arabia would have a fit if
Yeah,
there was a character expressing their queer interests. But
yeah,
um, like, I what if Jane came back and decided that she was interested in Valkyrie. And it seems
yeah,
like that's where they're
yeah,
going.
yeah,
And there's that scene where, like you said, the scene in the doorway that I think we skipped over,
yeah.
but it seems
Mm-hmm.
like maybe like they're
Because
romantically involved.
you
And
can
then
literally. Sorry,
that
you
would be
go.
like an interesting thing for Thor where he's still like obsessing over the past and he has to move forward and acknowledge that what this person is with someone else, and the same thing with Mjolnir, so that like
Yeah.
actually lines up, but no, he just gets back with his ex and that's it.
And you can explore like a different kind of love with that, where like Thor still loves her and Jane still has love for him, but it's in a different sense. It's different than what she has with Valkyrie.
I really like that too.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
yeah,
um my only hope for that is they do a Valkyrie Disney Plus series and that they
yeah,
hopefully don't butcher that.
yeah,
I don't know. And then, maybe then she can, because literally after Endgame at some point, they were like, Thor Love and Thunder, Valkyrie's thing is she's going to be looking for her queen. That was the tagline. Like they said that at Comic Con, I think it was.
oh
And
yeah,
that never happened. Gave up on it immediately.
yeah,
And then, yeah, so they're on the boat and Korg sings a funny little song. And it was weird. And then they pull an homage that I would have never suspected. They do the Georges Millet Man in the Moon,
yeah,
where they hit the moon, and I was kind of like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
like
yeah,
the movie he's talking about.
yeah,
Oh, that's what that was. That's
yeah,
that's that's kind
That's
of
how I
neat,
read
actually.
yeah,
right?
and
That's how I read it.
when they're on the moon too, there are a few shots that I felt kind of harkened back to like a sort of like an older era where like you just have like a soundstage and moving parts on it. Like there's one that's kind of like an extreme wide of them from the side, and they're kind of making progress to the right of the screen, and we can see the curve of the moon, and they're like kind of in black. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, yeah. And there's like it was an interesting shot. Um,
You know what? You know what that made me think of?
yeah,
Le Petit Prince, the French book where there's that prince that's like on a moon that's really small. No, no one.
I
Okay,
don't know it.
No.
Sorry.
me. um, it's like a semi-popular children's book, so like I'm not the only one who knows what that is. But sorry, were you anything else about like the moon thing? Yeah.
No, I just thought like that there was some. This was one area where I thought there was some interesting visual stuff going on, but I still generally didn't like the way it was filmed. That being said,
I would say that more so. This is another improvement from Ragnarok. Is like a little bit Taika seems to have some idea of like what an artistic looking shot is.
Yeah.
He has some artistic looking shots in Ragnarok, like
One.
Thor landing on the bridge. You know,
It's all right.
that was good. That was cool.
But it's always just like standard coverage. Like it felt like, especially in Ragnarok, and I felt like for most of this too. And I think this one sequence, where they're on like the moon, Death World, Shadow Realm, whatever.
It's new. It's creative.
Yeah, I felt like there was some where I was like, okay, they're not just like, okay, we have to get a 2-shot. Like when characters are talking, we have to get a 2-shot. We get like OTS single, whatever, traverse shot, boom. Yeah,
dude. Now that I think of it, Thor has many shots where it's just like you're viewing it from the side, and there's just like a bunch of enemy or like here and there, and then Thor crash lands on them. There's so many shots like that.
I don't like how he jumps, just like how you're talking about that. Like they have this superhero jump that they're using everywhere now, where they all do like this superhero jump, and they're like and falls right, like they kind of like just kind of like the shot you're talking about. Yeah, not so much in this sequence, but there was like a couple shots where when I was watching the first time, I was definitely like, oh, that's like an interesting shot. I think it was maybe when like Jane's like on the ground and like she's like her head is kind of like that, but her head is like only in one corner of the screen and the rest is, I don't know, something like that. I can't really recall it. It's like, oh, that's actually like vaguely interesting, and then the rest of the movie looks bad.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that the Shadow Realm was like a really interesting sequence, and like some people would say like stunning, like it's stunning visually.
I don't go that far.
Dude, I just found so many inconsistencies in the Shadow Realm, because like sometimes you sort of see like everything's grayscale, it's obvious, but then sometimes you see color. It's like, what? Like, are they bringing color into the Shadow Realm? Like
the weapons bring some color, so that's just like a small. It's a choice. I don't care about.
Yeah, I didn't feel much. I didn't feel anything about that in particular.
I will say that the stunning I think is taking things a bit far. I think having grayscale in the MCU is a first, and not a first. WandaVision did it first. Never mind. And did it better. But
they do a lot better.
I have to say the Shadow Realm looks pretty well. Like, controversial take, but looks just as bad as the rest of the movie.
Yeah, agreed.
I think it's a little bit better, but I think it's not. I think it's not good. Yeah.
And like the tent they're in is like the weirdest. I feel like there's a lot about this movie where I never really understand the
design decision.
The design, but also like just like a spatial, having an awareness of the space. Like I never get that in the tent. Like, is it a circus tent? It looks like a circus tent sometimes, and then it's like I really don't get the layout. Again, that's like shot choice. You know, there's not wides or whatever. But I don't know, it was weird.
Yeah, I think that's also the volume. I don't know if they used the volume in that sequence, but it's the same thing with the Obi-Wan show, where it feels very claustrophobic and it feels like they're in a tiny room and it doesn't feel like an expansive world.
That's I think you've nailed it. I think that's what it is, because it feels claustrophobic, and also I don't understand the space. Yeah, which is so key. And
dude, fingers crossed. I want Andor to be good, man. The trailer looks sick. I just hope the show's good.
On that point, Andor did not use the volume, so we're good. We're good. I am really excited for that show, and I think it got pushed back actually because of She-Hulk. So it's supposed to.
It's in September now.
Oh yeah,
it's in September. Looking forward for that.
Yeah.
Speaking of keys, it turns out the Bifrost is the key.
That's such
because we need another MacGuffin.
Yeah.
I was like, not enough MacGuffins in this movie. Let's throw in another one. At least it was one that was like kind of tied to the character, like Bifrost / Stormbreaker. I love how Gorr lays out his plans in like child's drawings.
Yeah.
It was so weird. Why is he like leaving these out? Like he's not even like putting them away.
Yeah.
Man,
So why would he draw out his plans? Who the fuck is he communicating his plans to?
it's literally just for us, for the
Yeah.
audience, and for the characters to learn. But like, it makes no sense. Does he have like the mind of a child, where he's like, gotta brainstorm here, let's doodle.
Dude, he really did it for his kids.
yeah, he was making
God
pretty
damn.
pictures. The other thing about this whole Bifrost thing is that it makes accessing eternity exclusive to Asgardians.
I know, right?
It's the only ones able to access eternity.
Very, very strange. Mm-hmm.
God, I hate it.
Yeah.
And it seems that like taking away this is okay. I hate this movie. Taking away Stormbreaker seems to be adding to this dynamic between Thor and his two hammers, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, which one will I choose, right? So taking away Stormbreaker should be the kind of like the catalyst to him realizing he misses Stormbreaker and like why he values the new hammer. And
Yeah.
he doesn't value it at all. And then he uses the Thunderbolt in the climactic battle, and then he gets Mjolnir back at the end. So he doesn't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, dude, Stormbreaker much cooler than Mjolnir, in my opinion.
I like Stormbreaker. Yeah.
I could go either way. I think when you have them side by side, Stormbreaker looks nicer.
Mhm.
Dude, Mjolnir's just so small, man. Like Chris Hemsworth is such a big guy, and then just this small ass hammer is.
Yeah, it's almost like it would be perfect for a child.
I know, right? Exactly.
I hate this. Yeah. So then there's like a little fight. There's a fight on the Shadow Realm with our creatures that we don't really understand what they
This
look
is
like.
where I was in the bathroom. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't.
Yeah.
One thing is that we get our Valkyrie fake out death where she gets stabbed. Did you see that part?
Couldn't even tell you.
Apparently, she only lost her kidney. Like,
Yeah. Later she jokes about it because she lives.
Yeah.
You know, Gorr the God Butcher has a god right in front of him and fails to kill her.
Yeah.
A common theme in this movie.
Yeah.
Man. And yeah, so she gets stabbed, which means we have to go home to save her, even though we didn't do that with Korg, because, I mean, he's okay as a face mask.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's our, like, I think you said someone has to die between Act 2 and Act 3. That's
Yeah,
what
or
that-
like there's a metaphorical like someone
Yeah.
has to they have to have an extreme loss that pushes them into
Yeah, so that's what Valkyrie's role is, and then
Yeah.
they also kind of, like, decide Jane's cancer is a thing again.
yeah.
She mentions it on the book. We
And there's
forgot to
that
mention-
rushed ass revelation that like suddenly Mjolnir is actually bad for the cancer.
oh yeah, draining her life force. Yeah.
out of nowhere. You're like, just like the Doctor tells her that. That revelation in the comics is so much better because she's been Thor for so long, and
Yeah.
she's she's Thor for a bit, and then she's in chemo, and then she's Thor for a bit, and she's in chemo. So it happens over a much longer period of time,
Mhm.
and early on she understands. So that's the other thing. She knows much earlier that whenever she transforms, what happens is, and they don't explain this well in the movie, what happens is Mjolnir purges the chemo from her body.
Oh.
It sees it as a poison, and so it's trying to heal her, but in the wrong way, kind of thing.
Oh, that makes
So-
so much more sense than okay, yeah.
You know, so she could live forever as Thor,
Yeah.
but anytime she transfers back, she's less healthy than she was before.
Mhm.
Yeah, we don't even try to explain that here.
Yeah. Dude, you know what we need? We just need fucking D&D from Game of Thrones. They're good at adapting books. They're good at nothing else. Should have just like faithfully adapted the comic and just leave it at that.
Oh,
Honestly, would probably be a better movie.
the creators?
Huh?
I don't know. You mean the writers?
Yeah, like D.B. Weiss and like Dan something. I
Okay.
forgot his name. Yeah.
D&D, and I was like, well, how does it have to do with Dungeons and Dragons?
Oh no! It's like they're a duo, right? It's,
Yeah, okay.
whatever.
Yeah, let's keep going. Let's motor through this. This is a long podcast already. So then everybody has to stay behind because Thor's going to do this on his own, and that seems to be a theme. This movie is so messy when it comes to themes. But I guess that kind of makes sense. Like,
There was no theme, bro.
There is no theme. He tries to like push people away, so I guess that's what this is again. But also, like, it totally makes sense because one of them has cancer and the other one is stabbed. So, like,
Yeah.
And then then Gorr seems to be doing well with his plan. Finally, he assembles Eternity, and then the kids look like they're about to die. Do you remember that scene when the giant rock falls on and it makes a sound like they're dead? And I was like, kill the kids,
right?
A group of characters that seems to die. I was like, yeah, let's kill the kids. No. And then suddenly Thor is around, and he gives them the power of Thor with the thunderbolt. Great.
Because why not?
It's Ragnarok too.
Yeah.
Same beat where someone gets the power of Thor and has glowy eyes and doesn't need the weapons.
Dude, one cool thing about that scene though, Thor's eyes glow yellow in that scene instead of his typical blue because he's holding the thunderbolt. That's kind of cool.
That's cool.
I mean, this is a small detail. Dude, I'm trying my best to say that this movie still has some redeeming qualities, man.
Right. So far, we've got glowy eyes are the right color. That's what the straws were like picking at here. What do you guys think about the children of Thor? How'd you feel about that sequence?
When I was watching it, I thought it was fine, but like it's just such a cliche moment. It's like, hey, kids are fighting, you know, like. But then, like, obviously, like, looking back, it's it's not that great. It just feels like a cheap way for the kids to defend themselves while not getting killed.
Yeah, by the time I was at that point in the movie, I was like, I'm waiting for this to be over. Like I was really done with it, and so like I was just like, yeah, fine. Like, okay, sure. Like, there's a lot of they need something to fight the monsters, so like, sure. Like, okay.
May as well happen.
Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I had something, but I don't remember what it was. Yeah. These kids, I don't know why they're in the movie, and they also speak in unison. Did you notice that? Like, whenever Thor's talking to them, they're like, no, Thor, don't leave us. And they're all speaking at the exact same time.
Was that it? That's actually creepy, bro. What the hell?
It's supposed to be creepy. Well, maybe, but it's just, it reeks of like, these are kids who don't know how to like talk over each other, or like the director's just kind of like, okay, and now say your line, everyone. They all have the exact same line and they can't think of something.
Yeah.
Speaking of that scene, I missed this because I don't remember when it happens, but there's that scene where Thor is talking to the kids, and then at some point Gorr shows up and is like, don't you play a game? Creepiest murder clown.
Oh yeah, just show them with the snake. Yeah.
Out of character for him being a dad. Yeah. And he's like got his like weird snake thing, and then he takes the head off.
Yeah.
These baffling decisions.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. I don't get why they did that. It's such a weird scene.
Yeah, oh my god.
Dude, honestly, I think this whole movie is just a conspiracy to destroy Christian Bale's career.
He's fine. He'll be fine.
He's not bad. It's bizarre to me that you think that is the worst part of this movie and nothing else.
Dude, I just feel like because it could have been so much better, you know? Because he's Christian fucking Bale.
I think my biggest qualms with the character are definitely the writing. Like I wouldn't pin any of it on Bale, to be honest with you.
No, I'm just saying he deserves better. He deserves so much more, you know?
Yeah. And so then we're fighting Christian Bale, and then Jane shows up because she's got to show up, and she appears, and now remember, she's not Lady Thor. She's not, what was the other one? She has this terrible line where she's like, it's not Lady Thor.
Oh, fuck.
It's not something else.
The Mighty Thor?
Dr. Jane Foster.
Oh, right, yeah.
You didn't even know her name. Like, why would you assume he knows who you are?
Yeah.
And it's just one of those like ham-fisted feminist like moments that are supposed to be feminist, but they just play as like so forced. It's the A-Force moment from Endgame, where
Yeah,
all the ladies are like, "Okay, ladies, now let's get in formation," and they're all like, you know, doesn't work.
yeah, yeah,
It's a scene that's written for the people who are like the trolls of the internet, you know, who are like, "Oh, it's
yeah,
Lady Thor," and like, you know, we're writing for them now.
yeah. And it's like, yeah, as soon as you let Reddit start dictating your movie, you've lost. And it's like you don't like
For
don't
real.
like stop. I hate that, like, and the filmmakers do that shit and they pat themselves on the back and they're like, look what we did. We struck out against the trolls. It's like you didn't fucking do anything. Shut
Yeah,
up. But yeah.
I completely agree. And then this whole battle makes no sense. So then they have to stop Stormbreaker, and again, it seems like a prime opportunity for Thor to try and, you know, reconcile with the hammer that's sentient, maybe.
Yeah.
And also, like, that's like one of those classic things where it's like villain's trying to do the thing, but he's got to wait for it to load up and like reboot or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Classic. It's loading.
Dude, you know what I hate in some movies? It's just like a character is like dead for sure. Like they're on the ground, they've given up, villain has a gun pointed at it, and the villain start a monologue. And then the monologue goes on for way too long, and then people show up, villain gets defeated. It's like, bro, just pull the fucking trigger, man.
That's there's a name for that. I forget what it's called, but like yeah, it's like the talking villain or whatever, where they just like they monologue to save time or like give the hero time, right?
Yeah.
I think they do that in the movie, but that's what Stormbreaker's effectively doing.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember. Okay, I remember what I forgot earlier. It's the Thor like giving the children the power thing. So
Yeah.
he's talking to the kids, and then we look back, and the monsters are like running towards us, and then we look at the kids again, and he talks some more, and we look back at the monsters, and they haven't moved.
It's like the Monty Python bit.
Yeah. But like, is that on
But not
purpose?
intentional.
They're like a football field away.
Yeah.
He's like, quick, look at it. And like, how big is this chamber?
Yeah.
Like, it didn't seem like it was that big before, and the monsters just could not be any further. Oh, it's so weird. Anyways, so then we gotta defeat Gorr.
Yeah.
So we gotta break the sword. And how do we break the sword? Well, now this makes sense. Let's smash it with the hammer. But that's not good enough because we've seen that broken, cursed weapons can reforge. So then we have to collect some of the pieces of the Necro Sword and make it part of Mjolnir
Mm-hmm.
and do a lightning blast. Does she like slam it down first and then a lightning blast?
I don't even
And
know.
then the lightning blast will do it. That'll do it.
Yeah.
Then it'll disintegrate. Sure.
Yeah.
I thought she was gonna become like the Necro Thor, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like maybe she has to like kind of like the cancer thing. I don't know. It's kind of messy, but nope. That's just how you break a Necro Sword, I guess.
Yeah.
Dude, don't try to understand this movie, man. It's like Tenet.
Dude, and then we get into the Eternity Zone, and then like, and Jane is dying, and like, dude, there's the moment where, oh my god, I don't remember what it is, but it's like, you know, he's going to say love. You know that's what Thor's gonna say.
Yeah, bro.
In the theater, I was like, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. Then he did. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they killed off Jane though. I thought like somehow like Thor is gonna be the one making the wish, and then he's gonna save Jane. I thought that's how it's gonna end. That surprised me. The ending.
I can see how like it's kind of surprising that they actually killed her, but then also like she's not gone for good. There's no way.
Yeah, the post credits.
Post-credits.
No, she's not coming back, man. She's in Valhalla. Why would she? She can't come back, can she?
Well, maybe we'll get to that. So while we're in eternity, though, I think that sequence could have been so cool if Avengers Endgame didn't happen, or Infinite, whichever one has the identical scene. Like it's literally the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I guess that's just like what happens when you make a wish or like a snap. Like it's always the same.
Yeah.
You're in some like infinity pool. It's not, like that's the only option.
Yeah.
Couldn't have come up with anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
And it's not like those movies were like made at the same time and they didn't know. Like that
Mhm.
movie was out and then they made this movie and
Yeah.
went, yeah, it's different enough. It's daytime here. That'll differentiate them. It's daytime.
Yeah, it's perpetually evening in the other zone. So like
Yeah.
there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then yeah, he makes a wish, and it's kind of like, wow, definitely saw that one coming. Like, really predictable.
Yeah.
And I mean, is it the worst ending? No, I, but like, I don't know, just the way it's handled, the
Yeah.
execution.
It's no. Yeah, I thought the execution was really weak. I thought like the idea that like Gorr is just doing it all for love. It's like there's more to it than that. Like come on.
Yeah.
Like cuz and that's one of the other failings of the movie. Like he has legitimate qualms. Like he has reasons to be upset. And they like don't really explore that. One thing that I thought would have been interesting is if like Thor and Gorr had a conversation about like what gods are and what they mean to the
That'll be
universe,
amazing.
what they should be. And then what if Thor came out of the movie and his like new quest was to like right the wrongs of the gods or something? Like I don't know, isn't that a lot more interesting?
That'll be really cool. Like Thor questioning his identity as a god. That'll be amazing.
Okay. That's the thing. That's exactly what the comics do, sort of. So I'll dive into like what the comics do. So they kind of have like another MacGuffin or like eternity sort of thing. In that version, it's still better. They create the God Bomb, essentially.
The God Bomb.
Gorr kills a bunch of gods. He finds one god though that he leaves alive, and for the longest time, you're like, why did this one live? Who's this guy? And he's kind of gone crazy.
Yeah.
And there's this big question like, who is this god? And he keeps saying, so people keep asking him, who are you the god of? And he says something different every time, and it's always something silly. He's always like, oh, I'm the god of butterflies and somersaults. That's one of them. I'm the god of like pancakes and buttermilk, stuff like that. And it's funny. And then there's eventually like, okay, no, Shadrach, I think his name is like, what are you the god of? And he says, I'm the god of bombs. And then it's like that, oh shit moment. Like,
yeah.
He's building a bomb and he's gonna blow up all gods across space and time. Again, kind of cheesy, but like it's
a lot better though.
It's better. It's it's not like a wish, which is so like same as the snap, really. Yeah, the comic's so much better. And then my point for we were talking about worthiness or something. I forget. But essentially, the god thing. So there's a bunch of gods that are like evidence for why Gorr might be right. There's like definitely lots of conversations about that. And eventually there's a comic series later where someone says to Thor, Gorr was right. And that's what makes Thor unworthy in the comics. And the fact that they don't try and do that in this movie when you have Mjolnir coming back and Jane could have been worthy, and then Thor has to figure out why he's not worthy. Could have been really interesting. Yeah. I could see how that's a repeat of Thor 1, but
it's better than what they have, though.
Dude, where do you even go from here, though? Like, from the ending of this movie?
No more Thor. Someone needs to God butcher the Thor franchise. I don't see how they do another Chris Hemsworth movie with Taika at the helm.
Yeah.
Just on this. It seems that they're setting up Hercules, but maybe they'll pull a Doctor Strange and never refer to their post-credit scenes ever again. Do you remember Mordo turns evil at the end of Doctor Strange?
Never happened.
Oh, yeah.
They still have yet to follow up on that. They were going to kill him off at the beginning of Doctor Strange 2, which is such a disservice to that character. It makes me so mad. Anyways, let's talk about this movie. Movie ends. Korg is back. Kids. I love how they say that the kids get to live a normal life, and then they show them in like self-defense training.
Yeah.
That's normal. That's like the American normal. Maybe that's
what. Oh my god.
I'll take there. And then Thor's living with his kid, whose name is Love.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
that doesn't work for me.
Bit on the nose.
Yeah. I was like at that point again so checked out that I was just like, yeah, okay, sure. Like name her Love. I don't care. Um yeah, is that Chris Hemsworth's actual daughter? Did I read
Yes.
something like that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And the funny, with the exception of the hammer thing, I actually really did like the dynamic between Thor and Love. And
Yeah.
they had good chemistry, and it's
Yeah.
because they're related. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, like I didn't mind that, and I think, I mean, I don't think you can have the movie about that because it's kind of like an end thing. But like,
Yeah.
if we move forward with Thor 5, and you know, like maybe he's fighting Hercules for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't honestly, with all that they've done, I don't know what you do with Thor 5, but yeah, if they brought back the kid, this is a kid that I would actually be interested in. I think this kid would be a good kid.
Yeah.
Not every kid's a good kid.
Not every kid's a good kid.
Most of the kids in this movie are not good. They're bad kids. Any other thoughts about the movie before we get to the post-credit scenes, the denouement stuff?
No.
So then our first post-credit scene, Zeus is back, baby!
Yeah.
Thunderbolt to the chest, can't keep him down. He's the god of thunder, I guess. I don't know. The god of thunder and chest wounds, I guess.
Yeah.
And then we see his son, who fits perfectly in this movie, actually, because that guy from, what's the show? Ted Lasso is famously looks like a CGI man. So at least he looks good against the backdrop.
You fits right in, yeah.
CGI and CGI, that looks normal. I don't know. I think. What do you guys think about Hercules?
I'm not gonna
I
lie.
don't know.
Until you just said that right now, I forgot that happened. Yeah, sure. I mean, like, theoretically, you could do a good arc where he learned from this movie that gods can be bad and that there has to be some sort of justice doled out to gods, and so maybe fighting Hercules, there's some exploration of that idea. So I don't know, maybe, but like, I think I'm with you on just don't do Thor 5.
Okay, I've got the pitch. I've got the Marvel. This is the Marvel pitch. This isn't the
Okay.
good pitch. This is the Marvel pitch.
Yeah.
Thor 5. Thor, and we market it as Thor versus Hercules.
Yeah.
Thor and Hercules meet, and then Hercules leaves and isn't in the rest of the movie. No. more accurately, it would be Thor versus Hercules. They fight in the first act, and then they're friends for the rest.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to.
And it turns out
Exactly.
yeah, and it turns out that there's another bad guy that's actually pulling the strings, and it's Zeus or whatever.
Zeus.
Yeah.
Zeus with a hole in his chest.
Yeah.
I think they should keep that. I think that would at least be a ballsy move. But
Dude, I just hate how, like, you know, there's so many movies. I think, like, the Black Panther 2 might be one of them, too. Just, like, you start off with a character, like, seemingly like the villain, but then it's like, oh, because we were fighting for the wrong thing, or, like, I got misinformed. And then turns to a good guy for the rest of the movie.
You can
Just so
do it
lazy, bro.
You can do it interestingly, but like the Batman versus Superman and even like Civil War a little bit, like, yeah, it's not
Right? Yeah, I agree.
Civil War
stuck with it, though.
Civil War's better.
Yeah, Civil War saw that through.
They do it good. It's not perfect, but the fact that Iron Man is an antagonist without like he's a true proper antagonist and sticks with that the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
Ends again, but then it doesn't stick. Like that's actually good.
Yeah.
But I agree that it's completely overplayed with what you said, Peter. But yeah, like I don't know when this comes back up again, the Hercules thing. It just feels like one of those post-credit scenes that's going to be like a tease for something that we won't see for another 5 years or something like that. You know?
Yeah.
Dude, can you believe they're not doing another Avengers film till like in 2 years or 3 years? It's 2025, right?
Yeah, I hear. No, is it? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe
That
you're right.
almost feels too soon though. Like to be like, I almost
Right?
feel like, because it's like,
Way longer. I don't need it.
yeah, it's like what do they have developed for? Like I don't know, just like make good stuff.
Okay,
Just like
let's
make some good stuff before then.
just make good stuff. Honestly, that's a pretty low bar, you think, but um, let's talk about this. The future of the MCU. Um, there's some issues. So when you have Phase One, there's clearly like your Avengers setup, right?
Uh-huh.
Thor, Captain America, Hulk, Iron Man. You've got a team going, and you've got stars. You've got characters where you're like, I really like this character,
Mm-hmm.
and person, mostly like Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans,
Yeah.
they can carry a franchise.
Yeah.
Chris Hemsworth was still like, I don't know about this guy with his bleached eyebrows, and
Yeah.
Hulk got recast eventually, but though at least those two were able to carry the franchise for 10 years and 20 movies or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, I am watching the MCU for the ultimate arc of Iron Man and Thor. Sorry, Iron Man and Cap and sort of Thor.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is in this.
No, I don't. I have no idea who that is. The only person that I like would be like Spider-Man, I guess, that I would like really care about. But I don't
I
think I don't even know what's happening with it because like I care about Tom Holland Spider-Man. I haven't thought any of his movies have been perfect, but I've liked all of them. I actually do like his Spider-Man, and I would care about him. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like I
Yo, Alex, you're gonna care about Kang more than any of the heroes.
Kang is. Oh, I love Jonathan Majors. But yeah, Spider-Man, I would say, is the one person who has that star power. He
Yeah.
can open an Uncharted movie and it can be bad, but people will see it because of Tom Holland.
Yeah,
Whereas I don't think any other actor in the MCU right now has that power.
I agree.
As far as like narratively or like characters that I think they're gonna try and center it around, I would say
Mm.
Doctor Strange is the biggest one.
Yeah,
He's your new Tony Stark. They're very similar characters,
yeah,
so that's an easy win. Are they gonna try and push maybe Falcon or
yeah,
Captain
maybe.
Marvel? Maybe. Um, I don't know.
Yeah.
One.
I really don't know either because it's like and then of the who are the like young characters you have like Spider-Man, you have like
Dude, they're
Miss
all
you
of them are young.
you have like Miss Marvel now, but I mean like
Yeah,
of
you have
like
so many young characters.
but I don't know who else you have like Shuri from Black Panther.
I think they're gonna do a well, it depends what you're talking about. There's like Avengers who are just kind of on the younger side, so
Yeah,
like Shuri and Spider-Man. But there's definitely like they're working their way towards Young Avengers, and I'm kind of surprised they didn't announce that at Comic-Con. They might be
yeah,
saving it for D23 in September. Um, I that one's pretty clearly being set up. They've got so far the Maximoff twins, who are currently dead or non-existent,
oh
but
right,
will
yeah,
will they'll come back. Um, we've yet to. Who knows if they will still be gay in this universe because they're like one of the most famous gay characters in the
oh
comics. More one of them has a relationship with a character named Hulkling, who we haven't seen yet. But so we got the twins, Kate Bishop from
oh right,
Hawkeye.
yeah,
Who else? I'm blanking already.
Miss
Miss
Marvel,
Marvel.
No, you don't know what you're talking about. Patriot
Oh.
from Falcon and Winter Soldier. There was the kid.
Oh right, yeah, yeah, yeah. The
Uh, who else?
Ironheart, I guess. Hasn't
Mm,
happened yet though.
is she? I don't remember. She might be. There's a character. Usually it's Iron Lad, and so she could be taking that role. Iron
they,
Lad is because there is a distinction. Iron Lad is Kang. He literally is young Kang,
oh
and
really,
that's the big twist of that series is
Hmm.
that you've got a bunch of characters who appear to be just younger versions of the Avengers, and then everything you thought you knew about them is wrong. So Hulkling isn't a Hulk. Wiccan is originally labeled as Guardian, and he's actually Scarlet Witch's kid. Patriot seems to be Captain America, but he's a mutant, and the one we were just talking about, Iron Lad, seems to be Iron Man, but he's actually Kang.
Mm.
Um, That'd be cool, and I think it would work especially well for this saga.
Yeah.
Oh, Cassie Lang, the Ant-Man girl.
Oh right, yeah,
Oh
Ant-Man's
right,
daughter.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, they're clearly setting up something like that. Ms. Marvel's usually on a team called the Champions.
Oh okay.
That one's with Nova and Miles Morales. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if they just throw Ms. Marvel on the Avengers because they could care less. Which makes me mad. She's not an Avenger yet. You gotta work your way up there. And remember what happened to Spider-Man after that? It kind of ruined his character, I think. He was better when he was not on the Avengers.
Yeah. I like him better not as an Avenger,
Yeah, so this movie wraps up with Jane in Valhalla. So I think that's our indication. Because if she was dead,
then
she
she'd
would be dead.
Yeah.
So why are we seeing her again?
Yeah.
If not to ultimately bring her back. She could come back as a Valkyrie, because I think that's what they did in the comics. So that she's not Thor anymore, which kind of feels cheap. But and the biggest jump scare in the movie,
Idris Elba.
even worse than Gorr, any Gorr pulled, was Idris Elba's haircut. That was not a good look for him. I was like, who is this? He's never had his hair down. It looks so weird. Ugh. That's my nightmare. My nightmare. But yeah, that's the movie. I don't know. I'm just what else can we talk about this movie? I think we've covered all this sort of stuff that I had written down. I don't know. We kind of covered this, but like, how would you make this movie better if you had a chance to rewrite this
Dude,
movie?
I think we offered plenty suggestions already. Even take one of them will make it like so much better.
Yeah, I think my general thing would have been like no kidnap kids, raise the stakes, have Gorr be a lot more threatening, show him doing stuff, have him kick Thor's ass at the beginning, and then kind of chase after him. I don't know how you figure that out. He attacks the God Planet.
Kill Korg.
Kill Korg.
Stay dead. Stays
Korg
dead.
dies. Yeah.
Or baby.
Yeah, and then just like develop everything better. I would like if I was doing the movie better, I would just like do it better. Like that's cheap. Yeah.
Just build different, right?
Yeah.
Yo, Marvel hired this guy.
Yeah.
Give him a call.
Yeah. Okay. So where would you rank this in the MCU? It's kind of hard with 23 movies, but like just vaguely.
I'm not going to lie to you, as this has been percolating in my mind for the past however long, and like the more I've been thinking about it, like this might be the worst MCU movie in my opinion. Like I think that this is the one that I would not watch over any other one. Like I was trying to think of another one that I was like Thor 2 is bad, and then I was like Iron Man 2 is bad.
Okay, let's talk about that. Thor 2 and Thor 1. So Thor, in my opinion, Thor 1 is dreadfully boring.
Mm-hmm.
And Kenneth Branagh can like literally, I think his tripod is broken because it only angles. It's not visually. Kenneth, if you're listening, it's not visually interesting if you do it the whole movie. That's just the movie. But at least like there is style. And he's going for like a Shakespearean thing because that's all he does. He's pretty one note that way, but at least the movie works. And Thor 2 doesn't work at all. Malekith is one of the worst villains because you have no idea why he does what he does. He's just kind of random. And also like a complete butchering of his comic character who uses magic and is like pretty maniacal. But even that, like, at least it has Tom Hiddleston's Loki. Like, it really elevates the movie. It has some of the best Loki moments, at least in the movies. Is in Thor 2.
Like Thor 2, like there's at least some stuff, and also just like looking at the movie, like it just looks fine. Like it's at a certain level where it just looks fine, and there's some stuff where I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. You know what I mean? But like, I just like. I am trying to think of an MCU movie that is worse than this one, and I genuinely can't think of one.
Would you say Doctor Strange 2 is better?
I liked Doctor Strange too. I thought it was
You
actually
like
a
that
lot of
one?
fun. I thought the
Mm,
script was super messy. Don't get me
yeah.
wrong. Needed a lot of work, but I thought it was one of the better directed MCU movies actually. I thought it was a lot more entertaining to watch, a lot more stylish, a lot more fun.
Peter, what do you think?
Dude, I can't really rank MCU movies. I feel like MCU movies, like, it's much easier to do tiers. It's like,
Oh, okay. Then
um,
what tier would you put it on
oh, it's the bottom tier, bro.
then?
It's not that great.
Do we bring you down? You started off with three.
Well, I mean, I feel like I was still like, I think like the experience, at least first time watching it, it was fine. But thinking more about what this movie could be, same thing with Doctor Strange 2, just brings this movie down a lot.
What would you rank it now? Post discussion.
Post this section, like in terms of my score,
Yeah.
probably like a 2. I feel like 1.5 is a little too harsh because it's not that bad. It still has some cool moments. It's probably a 2. Yeah.
We did it. We did it, Aiden. We brought him down.
It's fun.
Looking forward at the MCU, let's just talk about movies. I think Black Panther looks good.
Yeah.
I'm. This is bold, but I'm holding out hope. I think there's hope for the MCU if they use more of these, visionary directors who still give a shit.
Yeah.
Black Panther, I feel like Coogler definitely cares, and I think James Gunn cares with Guardians.
Yeah.
No, and I think that when I think people have got into this rut of movie consumption where they're just like, yeah, it's an MCU movie, like it's fine, like yeah, I go and I have a good time, and they're not asking for more, and that's why.
So true.
But there's
Mhm.
something I'm very grateful that Everything Everywhere All at Once came out this year and that movie
So
exists
good.
because it's
Yeah.
a movie that's very good. It's like a fun multiverse adventure. It's very funny and it works as a very well crafted movie. And I remember seeing it and being like, "Oh right, these can be good." These wacky sci-fi concept character goes on adventure through a multiverse. These can be well made. And I really
Isn't it
hope that it has that impact on people.
isn't it crazy that Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is going to be the number 2 multiverse movie this year?
Yeah, yeah.
Would have been the most crazy thing to say like
Yeah.
a couple years ago, but it's so funny to me that I think didn't they release within a month of each other? No, maybe
It was
maybe it was 2
close.
months.
Yeah.
The same season,
Mhm.
both in spring, and one knew what they were doing with the multiverse, and then yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And one last thing about this movie, Taika Waititi. Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
Yeah.
Do you think he's got some stuff in the works? He's got Next Goal Wins, which has been in production for a while. That's a rugby movie.
Mm.
And he's got Star Wars, which
Yeah.
could be
Because of
interesting.
those. He did say something about that I like, and he said that he would want to bring it away from the Skywalker,
Yeah.
and I like that. I think that's a good idea.
Mhm.
Yeah, I still have hope for him. You know what I mean? I really like What We Do in the Shadows. I really like Hunt for the Wilder People. I think those are both great movies. I think Jojo Rabbit has some good filmmaking in it, even though I think that the message of that movie is strange and muddled. But I mean, that's another. But there's some good stuff in it. You know what I mean? There's some good
Yeah.
moments in it. I think is done well. I think Ragnarok's still a fun action movie. So I think in general, of all of his movies, I still have a positive opinion, and I have hope that he can make something good, provided that he just has more time, and I think stays more at what he's good at. The idea of him doing a rugby movie sounds kind of good. It's like a New Zealand thing, you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
that seems like
Yeah.
up his alley, and I feel like that could be good.
Peter?
I mean, I still have a lot of love for Taika. Some of my favorite movies were made by him, and I mean, Hunt for the Wilder People made me cry. Really good. Jojo Rabbit, fantastic movie as well. I just think like Taika likes to use comedy in just like every situation possible, even though like in some like ridiculous circumstance. So like in Jojo Rabbit, it's literally middle of the Second World War, and you have like um, Jewish people being persecuted, allies getting killed here and there, but he's still able to show like whether it's, like in Jojo Rabbit's case, it's through a child's eye to show like the good and humanity in people, and like especially through Sam Rockwell's character in that movie. I think like that's what makes him so great. He's able to captivate the sense of hope so well in even in some of the most desperate and like desolate circumstance. So as Aidan said, like if he continues to do what he's good at, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to that Taika just couldn't care less with this movie, and he's very open about that.
Oh really?
With
what do you say?
Just the way he talks about the movie, he's like, there was one thing where he said like, "Oh, didn't touch a single comic book." Like he said, I read one of the thin ones, and then I was like, "Yep, not doing that. They talk weird," and then gave up on it. And it's like, okay, but the source material, like, there's a distinct difference between Thor Ragnarok, which isn't based on like a particular Thor storyline, to the best of my knowledge, versus, I guess it's okay. It's based on.
It's like two meshed together as well, right? Because Ragnarok is a thing, and then Planet Hulk is a different thing, right?
Yeah, it was basically what they did was Planet Hulk, and added Thor. But for this, like, they're basing it off of two of the best Thor storylines in his history, and like a very clear, like distinct, like, okay, this is the start of the story and this is the end. And he just said, yeah, screw that. I'm gonna do. He wanted to make a movie about like choosing fatherhood, I guess, or love and hate or whatever. And that's the movie he decided to make. And I think he also wanted to just like goof off with his friends, and it shows. Yeah. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's get to our titular segment, the most important part of the show: Predator versus movies. Would Predator have made this movie better?
100%, bro.
Yeah.
Predator would taken over from Gorr's job and actually killed Ross,
Dude, if we have to have a detour in the movie where Thor's just doing some random shit unrelated, Predator. That would be sick.
Predator would have been like a threatening villain at least.
Yeah.
And then we'd be like, oh yeah, Thor's gonna stop Predator. I would have been like, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Go stop that guy.
And you don't even have to do that much setup, because we already know Predator to be this threatening villain. So it's like, yeah.
No, Predator's gonna take all the kids, man. He's gonna kidnap all the kids.
Thor also trying to kill Predator?
Oh, that might be interesting.
Is Predator like a rogue god?
Oh, maybe.
Maybe it's the Predator, the god of the Predators, who is themselves also a Predator-ish.
Dumb.
Yeah.
Good movie in the making there. Marvel, call me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's enough of that. Let's go on to our Rex. Peter, what media have you been consuming lately?
See, I was gonna watch Shang-Chi last night just to like do a double Marvel, but then after Love and Thunder, I was like, nah, enough of Marvel. No more Marvel for the day. So I'm gonna recommend a show I recently binged. It's still going on right now. So I'm gonna recommend Westworld. Now I know the show's failed many people, me included. Season 3, it was fucking terrible. So much potential wasted. But season 4, they capitalize on your nostalgia for season 1 so much that it's somehow good. And also the twist is honestly very, very well done. So I'm looking forward to the finale tomorrow. Season 4 has been fantastic so far. I would say give it a watch if you've given up on the show after season 3.
Nice. Yeah, I watched. Well,
You
I think
watch
I've
the
done.
boring bits though. Come on.
No, no. Okay. Well, let me. So, I agree that seasons 1 and 2 are so good in Westworld. Season 1 more so. Season 3 was pretty bad, and then season 4, I've been told by Peter, takes a while to get into. So 2 episodes in, I'm not crazy about it. But I'll hold out for it. It seems that I don't know. I did like towards the end of season 2. I think it's kind of like the Marvel movie situation where they have to wrap up the loose ends from the last season, and those are the boring bits. So they got to wrap up the boring loose ends before starting the new stuff.
Yeah.
That's maybe more interesting. So, yeah. Is that all that you've wanted to wreck?
Dude, as soon as you start episode 3, you won't be able to stop. Trust.
Okay. Um, Aiden, any stuff that you've been looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I've been reading a book called The Writer's Journey recently, which is, I think, pretty helpful for anyone that is interested in writing. If you're familiar with like Joseph Campbell's A Hero with a Thousand Faces,
Yeah.
and like mythic structure and stuff, it basically like it's a book that kind of breaks a lot of that information down, but applies it more strictly to screenwriting. And it's pretty helpful. Although some like the author also makes like certain suppositions about life in general that I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? But if you just stick to like the writing stuff, I think it's pretty good. I've been watching a show called The Rehearsal,
Yeah.
which is insane. Like one of the most insane things I've ever seen in my life. I think it's hilarious. Um,
Do you want to go ahead?
yeah,
Describe it. Describe it for
so
the
if
audience.
people, it's Nathan Fielder is the comedian who is behind it. I don't know if people are familiar with Nathan For You, it's a show he had for a while, but
Another great show.
another great show. But The Rehearsal is this sort of like reality sort of show, reality comedy, where like basically Nathan Fielder like helps people prepare for like a big moment, like a conversation they're scared to have or something, by completely manufacturing and recreating like the scenario and creating a flow chart of possibilities that the conversation like that could occur in the conversation to like optimize what is happening. But then, like, while this is happening, he's also participating in his own rehearsal where he's raising a child with this woman. And yeah, like, and then in one of the, yeah, it's just an insane show. It, like, and I think it's, like, surprisingly thought provoking too. Like, considering
Yeah.
when you see the rehearsal versus, especially in episode 1, the rehearsal versus what happens. Like, I thought that was really interesting. Um, yeah, and as the show goes on, like it's just spiraling, and it's insane. I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
For movies, I like.
Well,
Oh, sorry.
I was also going to recommend the rehearsal, so I'll jump on that. And
Sure.
just yeah, the first episode I think is still my favorite, just because
Yeah.
it's pretty easy to grasp. Because like you said, every single episode after he just kind of spirals and gets more insane,
Yeah.
and it becomes more about Nathan than
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
else, which
Yeah.
is so
Especially the
funny
most
to me.
recent episode. Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet. I need to watch that as soon as possible. Yeah, it's definitely like one of the more interesting television shows I've seen in a while. Like
Yeah.
it's so different, and yeah, he's kind of like ruminating about life somehow, and it's still funny because he's just so absurd, and some of the
Yeah.
things it's the lengths he goes
Yeah.
to. He's spending a lot of
Yeah.
HBO's money
Dude,
on the show.
the fourth episode, I was like literally like I like burying my head in my hands like all the time because it was just like the like layers of rehearsal that he goes into.
Yeah.
It's like what? Yeah. Yeah.
Great show. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I saw Nope recently, which I very much enjoyed. I thought it was very very strong. And then I saw Top Gun Maverick the other day, which I thought was a very fun action movie. It was a good old time.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So rehearsal, great show. I've also been watching Clone High for the first time. Yeah, that's a good show, and it's a short watch. It's I think 13 episodes, and that's it because it got canceled really quickly.
Oh,
It was a classic like cartoon show from the early 2000s, and it's Lord and Miller,
Oh
you
yeah,
know, the Lego movie and all that sort of stuff. That was one of their,
Spider-Man. Yeah.
I think maybe their first commercial project,
Oh yeah.
possibly. Um, really fun show, and it's just like, you know, clones of historical figures, and they're in high school. Pretty easy concept, and it's kind of like it's like your typical like high school cartoon thing, except the jokes they make go just a little bit further, like the kind of thing that you would expect from Lord and Miller, where you're like, oh, this isn't like a regular cartoon show, like this surpasses it
Yeah.
because they do things just a little bit differently, and I really admire it. I decided to binge watch yesterday the Groot, the I Am Groot shorts. I don't know if you guys knew that those. I think they came out on Wednesday. Um,
Oh, okay. No, I didn't hear them. I thought they came out a long time ago. So no, I
no,
didn't
no,
hear
no.
them.
It just came out, and so it's five shorts, 5 minutes long. So really, like, not a big commitment.
damn! You really binged that, eh?
Yeah, well, it was 25 minutes. What else am I gonna do? And yeah, I was definitely like a Groot hater going into it. Not that I hate Groot. I love Groot, but the shorts didn't. They seemed like kind of weird, and I have to say like that didn't 100% go away. But watching it like on my phone on Twitter was different than like watching it on my TV.
Mhm.
And yeah, so like it is a little weird because it's kind of like those Pixar shorts, um, but like you know the Guardians have to be nearby, but they don't want to show them
Yeah.
because that means money.
Yeah.
So so it's like, why is Groot alone? How did he get here? And it's kind of like you know, there's the action happening right in the center, and then there's like this empty, vast world behind him, and
Yeah.
it feels kind of like I don't know what the word is, not dystopian, but like just slightly off. That
Yeah.
makes me feel weird. Um, or like that kind of thing where you know that it's like just a virtual background
Yeah.
that doesn't move, kind of thing. Um, but and it's kind of like those shorts with like the lamp. Like it's just kind of like fun, quick stories. And there were a couple where like the ending, I was like, damn, Groot's like no chill. Like he did some pretty like savage things that I was like, that was interesting. Kind of like jaw drop moments. Best way to describe it. Um, so I would say like, yeah, if you've got 25 minutes, it's kind of fun. It's like, you know, don't expect much. It's like a Pixar short.
Yeah.
Not as good, but yeah. And then as for movies, yesterday I watched Come and See, 1985 Russian movie about World War II. Um, I think I decided to watch it because it was the highest average rating of a movie that I hadn't seen on Letterboxd yet, like
Oh yeah.
of the things on my watch list. And it was great. It was fantastic. It's 2.5 hours, so like not any longer than like the most recent Marvel movies,
Right.
and it's shot so well, and it tells a really great story about a kid and how war changes him. Yeah, could not wreck that enough. It's not really like a contrarian opinion. It's a great movie. And then here's kind of like a movie that I bet most people haven't heard about. I think it just came out, even though it was made in 2020. It's called Tahara, Tahara. It's like an indie movie. So if you like indie movies, this is kind of like for you. If you liked Shiva Baby, um, that also came out like maybe last year. That's the movie that's Rachel Sennott. Maybe that's how you say her name. She's at a Shiva, and kind of like all these things are kind of like making it stressful, I guess is the best way to describe it. And there's like this bisexual um, aspect to the whole movie. So this movie Tahara is the same thing. It has Rachel Sennott in it, the same actor. It's at a Shiva. It's about a girl realizing that she has queer feelings, So perfect like double feature, and it was really good. I really liked how it was shot. So if you like Shiva Baby, this is spiritually the same movie. So yeah, uh, and that's all I have for Rex. So it seems that we're coming to a close. I think we're still kind of like in discussion what we're gonna do next. We've talked about bodies, bodies, bodies. That also has Rachel Sennott in her. I'm a Rachel Sennott fan. We can also do Nope, maybe Prey, or we talked about doing The Gray Man. So we'll figure that out. And yeah, so um, I guess until next time, we don't know how to sign off. This is uncharted territory. So bye, I guess. Bye. No, nothing, you guys?
Bye.